Shane Bradley, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Morning, fellas, or afternoon, actually. Yeah,
we're really excited to have you in for this chat today. I've spoken to a lot of friends and family about you in the lead up to this. The common theme is that you're a very private person.
Yep.
And so we feel really
Correct.
honoured that you're sharing your story really for the first time here. This is your first podcast, right?
It is, absolutely. Yeah, first one. Yeah, first time I had one of these in my face. So
Yeah.
Yep.
How are you feeling about the whole process?
Oh, heartbeat's probably sitting on about 130 at the moment. So yeah, probably nervous. It'll calm down in a couple of minutes, but that's all cool.
One of our best friends, Matt Parkin, recently got a job at your company, PetDirect.
Yep.
And he heard you tell part of your story at a work event. He messaged us straight away and he said, you need to get him on the show. And after researching your story, we said yes straight away and we contacted you and you agreed to come on. It seemed like it was at a perfect time for you. You sort of mentioned a few things that it was really good to come in. You're going through a bit of a reflective period.
Yep.
Is it part of it a bid to help others? Is that where it's coming from?
Yeah, 100%. I think when you go on, I'm 46 this year, 47 coming up soon, and you get closer to, 50, which just sounds ridiculous to even say that. And you just sort of sit there and a lot of people can turn around and go, things are amazing for you. It must be so, you're so lucky, this, and you sort of sit there and go, Jesus, do you want me to tell you a bit of story about what I was going through when I was 17 or 19 or 21 or whatever age? And I think a little bit of that. And then hopefully there's some people out there who might be going through very similar things, because I think a couple of things which I probably particularly have gone through, one in particular is probably quite unusual, and it was probably unusual 30 years ago. And you can obviously, hopefully, if you can help 2 or 3 people out there sort of go, well, geez, actually that's, he's had this and done this, maybe that's quite a cool thing as well. And you're right, when you emailed, I think it was Easter Monday, I think it was.
Yeah,
Easter Monday, yeah. And for me, that was been probably one of the most challenging weekend I've had in probably, I would like to say 46 and a half years. And we're sort of the next day putting my dear dog Cooper down to sort of sleep. So we're going through his last weekend. We had Waikiki and all that sort of stuff. Everything was the last. And you're just sitting there going, man, I just can't believe, 12 and a half years, how fast it goes. And you sit there and go, add another 12 and a half years, I'll be pushing 60. And you're like, oh my God. And just how fast things can go. And I was sort of just reflecting on a whole bunch of stuff, looking at a whole lot of photos and looking at sort of times when you're 24 and when the kids were born and that sort of stuff. And just you're going through quite a reflective sort of mode and just thinking, far out, time flies and you got to make the most of it while you've got it, I think. So, yeah.
I feel really special in this space. Like I spoke to your best friend, Will, and he thanked me for allowing the chance to reflect on 30 years and said it was like a really cool thing for him to do, to think about your story and his and intertwine.
Yeah, no, I mean, everyone should have a mate like Will, I think. It's just, to have someone like that we've basically been best mates since age 13, since we've known each other. So there is not a thing which you have not gone through without him. And the good times, the bad times, the really bad times, the amazing good times, and I think, he's a super fan of the show, so I think he was probably more excited than me that I was coming on here to talk. So I think he was to listen to me on the way to work, even though he knows the story. He knows it better than probably anyone.
Well, this is a good place to introduce Will, because he sent us some words, and I want to paint a picture of you from Will from the start. So he says, I've been best mates with Shane for 30 years. He's not a normal person. He's a brilliant person. He says his mind is like a projector and these slides just drop in, a new idea, a new opportunity. He then puts them into a plan and executes on them. And just as fast, if something is not going right, he cuts his losses. He doesn't waste time. I don't know too many people that are resilient enough to get through the tough times that he has. Very loyal, very sentimental, always looks for the reason. He speeds up when he's talking. His words can't keep up with his thinking. He has infectious energy, 100 miles an hour all the time, thinking quickly, moving quickly. He walks at a pace that I would jog. First on the plane, first to his seat, first to the taxi stand. It freaks some people out. I love it. Always moving at pace. A few poor decisions at pace. Not sure patience is a huge virtue for him. I felt really privileged to be an observer. I had a front row seat. Amazing best friend. He's helped mentor me. It's trickled into everything I do. I'm not a risk taker like him, but you can't help but not be influenced by people like him. You want to be his friend. Amazing ability to adjust to his surroundings. Can meet with the CEO of Air New Zealand and a couple of boys from the high school. He hasn't forgotten where he's from. How'd he do?
Take a moment.
Yeah. we've had some deep and meaningfuls, but yeah, when you hear it like that, it's sort of almost like another level, I think.
Do you think that pace aspect that he talks about has been a big component of your success?
Yeah, I think fail fast, fail cheap. And people just sometimes just don't do things. I just start. Like, we need to do something, just start, and you'll figure it out as you go. So don't think about it too often. That can lead to some poor decisions. You don't want to be too fast when you're buying a decent-sized asset, because you wake up the next morning going, oh, God, how do I get out of this? So it's not like you sort of go to the, order the wrong food for lunch and then just the next meal's, in 4 hours' time. So, but I also think the pace thing is just inherently built into me. It has been since as long as I can remember, to be honest. Everywhere was sort of wanting to get fast. If there was a project to do at school, I'd want to get done really quickly. If there's an idea to do at work, I want to do it tomorrow. You sort of think about an idea in the morning, get it out of the way in the afternoon, and it's live by that, and it's just out. So I think too many people go sort of slow, and I think it comes back to sort of thinking about at the start. I'm going to live to 100. That's what I tell the kids. It's 100, not 99 and 364. It's 100. And if you look at that in a sense of how long you've got to move quick, because you only get one of these. You don't get to sort of do the first one and go, I probably could improve there, or do this. So you sort of got to go at 100 miles an hour. But yeah, sometimes it can trip you up. But I think all in all, as long as you make 80 good decisions and you can have 10 bad ones, and that's probably okay. I think providing you keep your bad ones to as small as possible.
Are you constantly on the scan for new ideas and new things to do?
Mate, I'm the worst. And it's just it's a natural curiosity. Like, I can be standing at a rowing event and the coffee guy's there. And we did this at Marty Cup, just remembering. And you're looking at a big queue. And within 20 minutes, thinking, I wonder what he makes in a day.
Oh, you and Steve would get on really, really well.
So I start the clock and I'm like, okay. And then one of the mums comes up and I'm like, he's had 44 in the last 20 minutes. I said, it's good, times that by this and do this. And before you know it, I'm doing the guy's full P&L. Go over there and I'll sort of go over and say, mate, have you ever thought about doing this? And it's I think it's just natural curiosity. It's a love of business, I think. And, but yeah, you're always looking for different ideas. I mean, that's part of me. I think I get quite bored quite easily, which is probably why I haven't sort of had one business from the get-go and just done it for the last 50 years. I admire people who can do that. I probably would do better in life if you had done that. But I can spend an hour at work, which I class as my work, and I'll jump between 10, 11, 12 different things in an hour, and I'll be halfway through an email, I'll do something else, come back to the email, do something else, different businesses. But that's just the way my mind works. It's quite sort of like that all the time. And as Will said, it's pretty much like a projector sort of screen just coming through all the time. You go, well, got to do this, got to do that, got to do this. So yeah, it's quite chaotic. I wouldn't like it for anyone, too much to have sort of the brain sometimes, which is just constantly going.
How's taken 90 minutes out of your busy day to sit down and do a podcast going then?
My work sort of starts now. I get up at 5 a.m. and I go to bed at 9 p.m. And in between there, I just do stuff. And that's sort of took me many years to sort of work out. I'm not naturally I used to be always first and last out the office, and that just doesn't actually compute with me. I've managed to, over the course of time, as you have a few things you look after, you don't have to worry about sort of being there to, I don't have to be making the widgets or packing the boxes or doing other stuff. You can sort of have a lot of which actually suits the way I work. So I found my enjoyment of my work has gone up exponentially in the last few years. And doing this sort of stuff is as much about learning as anything. And I just love learning. That's for me. I mean, hey, admirers of yourselves, what you've done, follow your journey. You're now, doing this full time. Anyone who can jump off the cliff and go and do a business, I 100% admire. I think the small business community of the world based, and especially New Zealand, that's the backbone, I believe, in the country. I mean, it's so hard, and what some small business owners go through, the worry about the GSTs and that sort of stuff, like people just have no idea. And sometimes you can have, people will be asking them the most random questions and sitting there going, I might be broke next week. I can't afford to pay the GST tomorrow. I've got to go down and get $500 out on the credit card to put back in the bank to pay the GST tomorrow. People just forget about that sort of stuff, and there's a lot of hurt out there, I think, at the moment, especially too.
I was talking to you before we came on about, I'm 3 months into my experience as a business owner.
Yep.
And already there's been some highs and lows and things don't go the way you think they are.
Yep.
And it's stressful and hard and it sort of smacks you in the face. And you're not ready for it if you've never done it before.
I know, yeah, no. I said this to you, but I love how you called it a business owner, because a lot of people go, I'm an entrepreneur. What is an entrepreneur? Like, it's like a word that sort of people almost do to be like an accountant. I'm an entrepreneur. And it's like, I think too many people get sort of, these days anyway, sort of want to become an entrepreneur. So what are you doing? You own a business and you got to get the business to make some money. It's not all about raising money or doing something else. It's actually run a good business that you own. It's a business owner. So, you wouldn't find, I don't know, someone with back in my day anyway, 30 years ago when people were starting, entrepreneur was almost like a word no one talked about, whereas now it's become a sort of like, I'm an entrepreneur. It's like, well, what is your business? And you're a business owner. So, hey, 3 months in, there's lots of good times. It's funny, so I've been in business since my entire life, so I've literally never had a job. I've never had to do a CV. Just sort of how it's sort of gone, I suppose. So almost when people talk to me about going to get a job, I start freaking out at that, because to me it's just, you've got to start a business. It's so foreign, so going down and doing the company's office and doing all that sort of stuff to get a business set up, that to me is sort of as natural as probably breathing, I suppose, which is quite different.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And even going back to when I was 19 and first business, wasn't, nowadays everyone at 21, 22 is giving it a crack, which was quite cool. But back then it was really unusual. I was 19, sort of, you're walking up, people were saying, oh, is this your parents' business, where you're sort of managing it for someone? It's like, no, it's my business. And you're sort of this 21-year-old baby face sort of guy just going around measuring up windows and that sort of stuff.
This is a foundational story we're going to get to soon, but remind me, Shay, we need to delete that social media post where I called myself an entrepreneur from a few years ago.
I was actually going to say as well, I reckon by the end of this 90 minutes, Shane would have figured out like a way that we can do everything better and everything faster and like exponentially grow as well.
Yeah.
All right, this is a really good time to bring in wife Wendy, who I had a really good chat with. And she said, he's always on, and that's not a bad thing. I've never met someone remotely close to his ability to multitask. If doing 10 things is impressive, he'd be doing 30. And during the call, to kind of prove the point, she walked over to your computer when you weren't there and said, I'm going to tell you how many tabs he's got open. And said your screen was split and you had 15 tabs on one side and 12 on the other.
And incognito mode on another.
She continues, fine-tunes everything he does, including health. He won't just go out for a run. He'll research the best running shoes, the best running times of the day. He saunas, he ice baths, he stretches most nights. Is a firm believer in tools of the trade. And I want to continue from that and pick up the journey in sixth form, because I think it's quite an interesting place to start. You'd kind of fallen out of love with school and mentally detached, I think, from your words, but also in the background is a quite an interesting cycling story. So can you take us to there?
Yeah, so I was always fairly diligent at school. So, if someone was doing a project and project of the universe, it was people were doing 10 pages, I'll do 100. Just ridiculous. You give it and the teacher's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So I was always really studious. I was pretty crap at most sports. So couldn't play rugby. I literally remember being gutted when I couldn't make the Central United B soccer team. And just think, I used to struggle. It's something you just struggle with. So I always wanted to be good at sports, because back then my brother, he's 3 years older. He's sort of the classic sort of case of any sport he'll be good at. And it just used to frustrate the shit out of me. As much as you sort of admire it, you go, bloody hell, he's good at rugby, good at this. And so I was looking for a sport, and then I ended up doing an old mountain bike they used to ride to school on that got stolen out of the shed. With insurance money, bought a red, it was a mongoose mountain bike, but no suspension back in those days. It was one of the first mountain bikes, and I loved that. And then there was a race around Lake Rotorua. It was 42k, so I went and did that. Big Reebok boots, shorts and stuff, and fitted around and did okay. Like I was sort of following all these bunches and stuff, and I was like, this is actually really quite cool. And so I started researching and thought,
is that a road race, by the way, on a mountain bike?
Yeah, but just like a fun ride sort of thing, but you're sort of riding with these dudes and they're going, you're a dude with a Reebok boots on, the big sort of whatever they were called. And then I thought, well, that's actually quite a cool sport. And then I sort of, back like anyone back in our area, I mean, especially growing up in a small town, your bikes, your car, it's a freedom. Once you get a bike, you ride anywhere. I mean, just you shoot off on Saturday morning at 7 o'clock and I'd ride around, see about 4 sets of grandparents and great-grandparents and uncles and aunties and get back home about 4 p.m, just a genuinely cool upbringing. You can't do that sort of these days. It just doesn't work, or in Auckland anyway. And so on the bike, so I thought this is quite cool. So I ended up getting I've looked in the paper because actually did, and there was a Vanti Super Sprint that was for sale. So it was about a size 60, which is obviously I was about sort of that high. Go up there, the guy just rams the seat down. So I'm riding my sort of Vanti Super Sprint, realised that's, so did that for a few months, realised that that's probably not the right way to be riding a push bike. And then I got into it more and more and more. And I just enjoyed it because it was sort of a sport I could join the Rotorua Cycling Club and some fantastic people there. Will was actually doing cycling too. If you ever meet Will, he's got the biggest calves that you'd ever got. Unbelievable. You sort of follow him, you're like, oh my God, he's going to snap the pedals. And then we so just started doing it more and more. And what cycling was good for me was it was very much a sport that if you did it, you'd get better. Like it's sort of one of those sports that, there's not a huge amount of skill level at that age. It's not like you sort of, God, having recently learned a couple of years ago wing falling. God, it's the sort of, you have to just learn. You hate it. In about 6 months, you get it, and you're up. Whereas cycling, you get on, you have quite a good fun straight away. And if you're prepared to train, which I was looking for something to do, I think you become better at it. So then I became sort of good at that. I won't say not good at that in the first year. I was about 14, and then I bought a few books. So a lot of time in my life, internet wasn't around back then, so you sort of go and buy a book. And I did that with businesses. What do you got to do? I'll go and buy a book. Need to learn how to code a website. I'll go and buy a book. And bought a book, and that had training programs in it. So I started following that. And sort of got better and better. So I was sort of like the self-coach, and then sort of age 15 did a couple of races, and sort of I remember one in particular where it was like a change, and you go, shit, I could be quite good at this. And that was really cool. And it was it was the Waikato A novice time trial. It was at Reparoa, and went to, because I come from Rotorua, so I went from Reparoa out 8K and back, and I won that. And I was like, this is quite cool. It was training. So then you get to the fire going a bit more, you train harder, and you keep going, and then the next year did some more. And the hard thing in that sort of era of any of those sort of sports and endurance is, a 14-year-old and another 14-year-old are quite different. I was up against guys who were shaving, and you go, I'm still this. Didn't even know what a shaver was. So they were very good. And of course, but if you keep going at it, eventually you get better, and then you catch up to them sort of, I suppose, hormone-wise, and then you're off. And they're sort of almost going, well, I'm not getting any better. So they get disappointed and just leave the sort of, leave that. So sort of 5th form, 6th form, that was all I did. Like I ate, shat and slept and basically bike ride, and that's all I cared about. So school for me became this really important thing. And it was at the same time as when, I suppose, getting into 5th form, school stopped being fun. And I say that, like I used to love school. Like I'd go to all the, love all the maths and that sort of stuff, learning lots. And at that point you're finding these things, you're going, look, I'm never going to use that in life. Like, who cares about that? And then you start having, I wouldn't say arguments, but sort of firm discussions with the economics teacher going, that's not going to work in real life. This is theory.
I feel like that might be quite exclusive to you.
And I mean, there's nothing that an economics teacher loves more than someone sort of saying, that's not how it works in real life. It's sort of, okay. And so I just kept wanting to bike ride. And then won a couple of national titles at things, and ended up becoming sort of, I suppose I was reasonably good. So that's sort of in 6th form, and I decided to, in that 6th form year, I had a bunch of time off when we went overseas with the national team, and came back, and I was like, look, I'm just not into doing this school. I just want to ride my bike. And so I sort of focused on that that was 94, and then 95 was to the Junior Worlds. So 94 went over with a couple of guys to America and to Canada, did some race over there, about 6 weeks, and then decided at the end of that year I'll sort of go full-time basically, and worked a little bit for mum and dad, helping them out in the morning, and then go and do all your training in the afternoon. So you did all that sort of stuff. So it was pretty full on. You're doing 20, 22 hours a week training and all your recovery and that sort of stuff. And I was pretty, if anyone knows me, it's like if I get into something, like I'm fucking into it. It's just like everything else, I don't give a shit about anything.
Even back then, you was that laser focused?
Yeah, I was probably worse, I think, back then. I think I mellowed a bit. I think kids and family do that to you as well, so which is a good thing. If you ask my brother what I was probably like then, he'd probably say, I was a pain in the ass. That's all he just do, like that's what I wanted to do. So 95 was the Junior Worlds. So we went over to San Marino for that in Italy. That was pretty cool. But also it was really disappointing. That's probably one of the biggest disappointments in my life. I sort of had my goals, big goal setters, everything written on the wall. On my helmet, had what I was going to get for there, and every goal I'd written since age 14 I'd hit. I had the goals I was going to go and do for that. I was self-taught, but over there they wanted to give you the national coach, had to start training and that sort of stuff, and you couldn't almost say no, you had to do what the team was doing. And so I sort of peaked away too early and ended up going to the junior worlds and getting a position which I wasn't very happy with. It was still good, you tell people now, they go, oh, shit, that's pretty bloody good. So I came back and I was actually more frustrated with that I'd let myself get told what to do. And that's probably something which I've carried for me for a long time. And so I decided then to have 1996 off, and I said, I'm going to ride my bike because I love riding my bike. And at that time too, you sort of, one of the other things I saw over there was, there's a few things, and then, long story short, I came back and had a few more months in 97, and then won some big races against all the seniors, and then sort of got to the stage where there's a few things where I said I've got to sort of get out of the sport. I had a sort of couple of injuries coming through, and it was injuries which I now look back on and I could have solved them so easily, but back then it's hard to get the sort of what the problem was. That was getting really frustrating. And then I had, once you go overseas, you sort of saw at that time, it's peak Drugsville. Like, it's just full noise. So when you're going over, then the Italians have got their sort of 2 security guards next door to their chili bin that they're carrying next door to the junior, the team auction mask going on, and we've got our water bottle, and we're sort of, this could be trouble, boys. And you had that. And then the other probably big thing for me was I sort of suffered from an eating disorder at age probably 16 and a half, and it happened sort of towards the end of 94. And so the only way to describe it was I had bulimia, essentially. So that was, and that was just starting to get the grips in properly, to the point that it was, really just, just moods. And it was sort of bulimia, emotional eating. I'm quite an addictive personality, so addicted to eating is probably my thing. And you just start, and you just, for no fucking reason, you keep eating, and you just eat everything. It was like, if there's a loaf of bread and you have 2 bits of toast for Marmite, you finish the entire loaf of bread, and you for no reason, you just keep going. So that was one of the things I sat down and I just said to myself, I've got to sort this out because this ain't going to end too well, I think. And you sort of also knew, if I can't be the best at something, I really don't want to do it. I don't see the point. So my view was, well, if I can't win the Tour de France, because I'm never going to take drugs, it's just something I never would do. I've had, I think, antibiotics once or twice in my life. I've never taken a Panadol. I just don't do anything. And I sort of thought, well, what's the point of going over there and spending 10 years struggling, riding for some shit team in Belgium, getting paid no money and just training for 40 hours a week, when I could actually, I always knew I was going to get into a business, so I could just start a business and get into that phase of my life.
When we were emailing before the podcast, you sort of said that the bulimia thing is something that you've never spoken about, and you've shared it now publicly. Is there a reason that it's taken you so long? There's other people, men affected in this space, but perhaps not so widely talked about. Yes,
you're probably a little bit. You feel a little bit. I'll say ashamed is probably not the right word, but just it's sort of, there's a people love chopping people down, and I think all around the world, I don't think it's a Kiwi syndrome. People talk about tall poppy syndrome. I think we've got it, but they almost look for things that are sort of almost really negative. And for me, it was something which is, probably also taken probably 30 years to properly. I don't think you ever beat an addiction. I think it's always there. You just learn to suppress it, live with it, put it in its box. The box gets smaller. You create tools around it that if it rears its ugly head, I'll have moments even, when you get on the few beers, and also the chocolate cake's left out, you could, and people will laugh, oh, gee, it's changed it like 5 bits. That's it coming through. I sort of can chuckle about it now, because I know that I just wake in the morning and I'll just chop it in half and it's going to die again, that sort of feeling for a while. But when I was like 21, 22, it was still a really tough thing to do. So, but I also think, it was very unusual, I think, to be a long-haired, shaven-legged cyclist from road to road, age 17, who had bulimia. It was probably not one of those things which I couldn't really talk about it, because it was like, that's a bit weird. I thought eating disorders are a female thing. It's like, no, it can be a male thing too. And it was literally driven by, there was a comment that happened when I went away in 94, and, you're 16 years old and a couple of 17-year-olds, and we went overseas, just asked them, God knows why mum and dad let that. You're 16 and you're off by yourselves to, in the States. It's amazing to think, because I wouldn't do it to my kids. And we sort of went over there, and I came back a bit heavier. And that was literally what it was. I went over there at 71 kg, and I came back at 76. And just there was a couple of comments at a first race got back about, oh, geez, you've packed on a bit of weight.
Fuck, there's a soul destroying, eh?
Yeah.
People don't realise how, if you are fragile about that part of your person, and I'm speaking from experience here, just how fucking damaging those kind of little throwaway quips can be.
Yeah. And Mate, and I think for me it was, because I'd never actually thought about it. Like I never weighed myself. It's just like, you're burning all calories every time you eat. And I always eat nice and sort of reasonably healthy, I suppose, because you're training so much. And I think there's certain comments which I think something like the bulimia is in your DNA, in terms of it's a sort of an addiction sort of thing. And there's like that comments that came through essentially was a code. And it was somebody just going beep, 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 and it just opened up and and straight away you're sitting there going, fuck. And I just remember it was like bang, driving home. I've got to get some of the weight. Oh, fucking head, put on a bit of weight, haven't I? And you just look back at it, someone takes a photo of the medal dice and, geez, my cheeks got a bit bigger. And so it just starts and it snowballs. And then, so that was a thing I just had to go and solve. And I think if I probably look back at it, knee was probably a chunk of it. Realising you're not going to be the best if you aren't going to win the Tour de France. Let's get in, getting sixth in a business sales in New Zealand for 10 years, I don't know, whatever position you get into, that's a great result. Your life changes, but getting 18th at some race in Belgium, and no one cares. Who cares? So I'd rather just move on to a different life, and then obviously sorting out the eating side of things was, probably looking back on it, was probably the majority, I would say. Those other two things made it easier to call it. It wasn't like you're sort of, destined to win the Olympic gold next year, and you're sort of pulling away from that. I was like, actually, I'm just going to get rid of this and go and sort it out.
And was it you're a private person anyway, 90s teenager, none of those conversations are happening. So is that an internal battle that you are?
Yeah, I bought a book.
Bought a book. I was gonna make a joke of it, but I wondered if you did buy a book.
Literally bought a book. Yeah, I bought two, and read those and realised, first of all, you got to, to understand a problem, you got to, to fix the problem, you got to understand what the problem is. All I knew, I had this crazy thing, and I figured it was bulimia, then I realised it was sort of like, you get essentially addicted to eating. Everything you read, you go, geez, that's me. Shit, that's me. And then the way I solved it was I actually moved back home. And sort of mum knew. And so I moved back home, and I'd sort of literally at that stage was getting ready to starting the business, and had a little house that I'd bought when I was 18, because houses back then were about $4,000, so everyone could buy a house. Bought a little house, but I said I've got to rent that out and move back home. And part of that was when you're alone and you're at your own house and you have a bad day or bad something, there's a fridge. There's no padlock on it. I have a safe now at home where all the stuff gets put in, and that was probably 4 years ago. And laughing at the kids, I was sort of eating bloody everything, and of course they can just, it kills me. My wife can just have stuff sitting there, like a pack of chocolate on the bench, and just never touch it. Yeah. I'm walking past and going, yeah, and you're like that, and you go, oh. So I just one morning I said I'm off to buy a safe. So I went down to Mitre 10, bought a safe, put it in the pantry above the fridge, and that's where all the sweet stuff goes. So that's you got to try and solve it. So, and part of that was similarly when I was younger and moved home. It was just like I was there with mum and dad, and you're not going to sort of go and gouge your face in front of them as well, and that probably and the actual time. Glad I remembered this, because it was one of the points I wanted to say. But where mum and dad were living at the time was out at Lake Akirika, and they had sort of a house here, and there was a sort of there's a boat shed down there, and I remember walking down there after binge eating and going, I've got to get rid of this, so I'll go down there and hide away. And it was in a boat shed, so
you would physically make yourself sick.
Probably over 3 years would be at least 300 times. Like it wasn't 3 times a day, but it was, sometimes it might be twice a day, then you get through another week. And I'd do other stupid shit. Like if I'd have a massive day of eating, the next day I'd go and do a 6-hour bike ride, limited water, no dinner after that, wake up next day, I feel like I'm back to normal, I've beaten it. Cool, go again. And then, but at this particular time, it was the very last time I ever put the finger down the throat, apart from in the previous times when you have too many beersies or something. But, back then, to get rid of the food. And then I still remember doing it. And of course, I don't know if you try to dry reach a loaf of bread after you've finished it. It's very, very hard and feels like your entire intestines are going to be ripped out. And in the boat shed, there's like a little mirror that was on the wall. It was cracked. And it was sort of, I remember just, I looked up and I was just staring at this mirror and my eyes were in it. And the eyes looked like I was about to fucking pop out of my head. And I just went right up close to the mirror. And I get emotional thinking about this. And you just seeing the little devil inside. And just like, that's the one thing I knew what I was quite competitive. And so I remember saying, I'll fucking beat you. I'll just fucking beat you. And so I stood there for about, 5-10 minutes would be. I had to, calm myself down because you're sort of all red and everything like that. And I was sort of, it's weird because when I was walking back up the stairs back to the house, I sort of knew I was going to beat it. Because I'd turn into a competition with myself and I'm a fairly competitive person. But yeah, that was like, one of those movies you see and people are looking at it's all like the sort of devil's all cracked and broken and you got tears out your eyes and stuff. And it was, I was real close like that and you could see, I was like, I'll fucking beat you. But you can still feel it. Like I think those sort of things are still inside you in some capacity. But you just learn to put it in its little box and you put it down here and then he's sort of gone burgers. I don't think you ever get rid of an addiction. I think if you've got an addictive personality, you've got it.
Oh, I want to pause here for a minute and just commend you for having this conversation because I've never thought about my own attitude towards food in that way before, and elements of what you're talking about really speak directly to me in terms of like Doc Brown will often say my attitude to chocolate is like, if there's a bar of chocolate there, I'll eat the whole fucking bar.
Totally, that's what it's there for.
And she would ask me, she'll ask me like, were you like this with alcohol? And my attitude towards alcohol was pretty similar. Like I wouldn't have 1 or 2 beers. I would have all the beers.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing to think about and probably something that's never, for men particularly, to talk about their eating and their eating habits.
Yep.
And I've wrestled with those demons. I think I spoke about it on the podcast another time. Like, the drive from Auckland to Hamilton for me is one of the most perilous because if he's not with me and I'm alone, the voice in my head that says, just go and have a double quarter pounder and a cheeseburger and no one will know is constant.
Yep.
And it's there at Bombay, it's there at Rangariri, it's there at Mercer, Topiri, and the last one is just before home.
Yep.
And no one would know except you.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
Yeah. Well, where my house was in Rotorua is Tino Tonga Road, and down the sort of 4 houses down, there's a little shopping centre. There's a petrol station, a dairy, and a liquor shop. So I could do 3 trips, 3 different people. They wouldn't think this guy who's walked down every half an hour to buy an ice cream, to buy this, to buy that. They wouldn't think I'm going home to just chow it all down. But yeah, you go home and chow it all down for no apparent reason. But weirdly, with alcohol, not addicted to it. But like you, if I'm going to do something, I'll do it really fucking well. So if we're going to have the beers, we're going to have the beers. And me and Will, we've had some just the biggest nights you've ever freaking think about. But it's not like I've woken up next day going, oh, fantastic, want to keep just going,
Yeah.
But food for me was my thing. I never had drugs because I sort of thought, once you do that, I think addictive personality, it'd be straight down. So I've just refused to ever even try anything like that. So, yeah.
The thing I love about that, you're a problem solver, right? And you've found a way to solve the problem by making it a competition in the mirror.
Yeah. Yep.
And you've said, I'm going to win this, and that's how you've. That's how
it stopped. Yeah. And to this day, it's still like if it starts getting, it's competition. So I was finding, tail into last year, you just eat a bit shit. And so I woke up on the 1st of January. I said to the girls, my kids, and that's right. I'm going to giving up either alcohol, chocolate this year. Which one should it be? And they said, well, you can't do marshmallows. I love marshmallows.
Oh God, who doesn't know? That's one of my vices as well. I'll do a whole packet of pastilles like that.
Yeah. But I said, okay, well, beer or so alcohols, because you don't often call up someone and say, hey, do you want to meet up down the corner and we'll have a chocolate bar? It's sort of weird. So I was like, okay, I'll give up chocolate. And I was like, that's not going to happen. Haven't touched chocolate since.
Yeah, wow.
And amazingly, what you do with chocolate is it's so much of the snacks. You come home from a bit of an average day at sort of work, you grab something and you're having something else and you have something else and you're sort of red sirens going, hang on, big man, start chopping this out. And especially the kids not there and the work from home thing, which is, a lot more prevalent. And so I was like, actually, if you stop chocolate, and then it's amazing how my snacking is just, which has been actually a really good byproduct of it. I have not missed it. one bit. Like,
do you keep a physical tally of it, like a
in terms of what, a tally of
like days gone without chocolate?
No, I did the whole lot. There's no like. So since 1st of January, I have not touched chocolate.
Yeah, that's me and takeaways too, by the way.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, no, but I think you just don't. To keep a tally means you can sort of almost cross it off. You say, no, I'm literally not, like, for this whole year. And I actually doubt whether or not. I don't know. We'll see how it goes when I get to New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Wake up in the morning, have a king-size slam and just smack it back. Probably don't want that.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to move us along just because we've got so much to talk about, but I feel like that was really cool, and I think that's going to help people.
I don't imagine that was easy either.
No. You can see when I was talking about it, that when you go back to some of those moments in time, because I've got a very good memory. I remember like most things of where I was at a certain time, how I felt. And you come back then, it was like sort of you start almost shaking because you sort of get into that sort of phase again of, right, this is a fight to the death almost is what you got to sort of think about it. So
I'm going to take you to the next sort of pivotal moment. We kind of teased it at the start as one of these sort of foundational journeys, which started in Rotorua.
Yep.
You moved to Auckland. So you had this aluminium joinery business that started in Rotorua, and it moved to Auckland. Within 18 months, it had gone from 10 people to 50 people. You got hit by bad debts, about $800K, and it threw you to the wall.
Yep.
I'm really keen to go back to the start of this journey. Like, this is your first business you've created, and how it expanded so fast, and then what happened.
Yeah, so 1st Jan 97, little business which so mum and dad at the time are building a retirement village down there called Glenbrae, which is opposite Leisure World, if you ever know Rotorua, and they sort of bought the land, and we lived there for a few years while we had to sell everything to do that, and so we sort of lived there, and then down the road, Dad ended up picking up a building, and it had he was going to do his own kitchens for the units he was building, so he sort of started doing those because we're already doing that. And this particular building came with a couple of aluminium saws, and so then he sort of started sort of just doing the windows for the unit. So I had a guy come in and would make the windows and do that, and that's probably where all this, you think about sort of businesses. We've been doing business since I was in bloody nappies, always around business, and so that was there. And then when the rest time had sort of finished and he built them all, he was essentially going to sort of like not close it down, but the two foremen were going to go and sort of the kitchen foreman was going to take it off, and he was to have his own little business and start that. And then the window foreman was, and my job for what I was cycling was doing the pricing for the windows. So there's a computer program where you have to enter it in, enter all the sizes, I spit out cut sheets and give it to the guys on the floor, and they know what to do. And so I was doing that. So I was when the business was going to sell, I was going to bugger off and keep sort of cycling. And of course, going through this, finishing cycling, and then the foreman one day, great guy Rob Vanden Heuvel, he was sort of umming and ahhing about it, and I just turned to him and I said, "If you don't fucking buy it, I will." And it was like, when you talk about it,
you're still a teenager though, as well, by the way.
I was 19, yeah. And it was more half in jest, and Mum heard it, and she was like, oh God, Shane's going to do this, because it sort of had that sort of tone of voice in me. And it wasn't like a huge business. It wasn't like sort of, hey, it's doing this. It was like the saws and there'd be one guy you'd hire, and I was like, cool, I was looking for something else, So I sort of made that transition. That probably helped it easier for me to do, and I was already doing the computer work for it. So we started, and being a pretty young, ambitious sort of fellow, was like, right, finish cycling, not going to the Tour de France, but bugger it, I'll go and buy Fletcher Building, let's just get massive and do all that sort of thing. And so I started that, and it was really cool. The first year was amazing. Apart from we had the sort of 97 sort of, it's called the Asian financial crisis. So that was my first crisis you've ever sort of lived through, and work just stopped. And 2 months later, you're going, Jesus, but you figure out how to get through. And then sort of being a fairly enterprising fellow, Rotorua becomes too small for you. So you start doing windows in Hamilton and Tauranga, and I was going to Hamilton quite a bit anyway, because Will and sort of mates had gone over there for uni, so you go over there for your sort of your big nights of the Outback and the Hilly and that sort of stuff, drop off the windows, come back, and then sort of decided and got the opportunity to sort of open up a branch of it in South Auckland. So and literally it was just, this is how my brain works. It wasn't, oh God, I've got to think about it. I was like, cool, right, load the car up, you were right down here, and cool, drove up, literally got off the motorway into Parnell, only because it sort of literally ended up off the motorway. Hang a right when you got to the bottom, up Parnell Rise. This was a right place to live. I didn't really know Auckland that well, sort of pretty safe. Stopped outside a hairdresser's called Gary Rogers, who was there ended up becoming a mate for a long time, or Gary Rogers in our case, and got a haircut because I needed a haircut, and then thought, cool, I'll get here. So went and bought a paper, because there's no Traby back in those days. opened up and rented a house just around the corner, and sort of had my gear and sort of basically got the house. Went back down to Rotorua, picked up some more gear, and then sort of moved up here. And it was
What time period are we talking about here, from when you started to when you're moving?
Yeah, so I moved in 99. So mid 97. So it would have been about sort of 18 months. To coming up, and of course Auckland, big bright lights, massive buildings, and you're used to doing all these sort of small sort of things. And Rotorua was going really well, because the great thing about Rotorua, small town, drop off windows to a builder, they pay you. Amazing. It's just because you see each other at the pub or whatever else, and that's great. You come to Auckland and you're doing these big projects and stuff, and I was, of course, the sort of, I think a lot of the developers at the time thought, oh God, here's a guy who can skin alive. So I'd go and win these big contracts, and then we sort of moved to another factory out at Hunua Road, and I just thought it was amazing. It was great. You're sort of selling these windows. Obviously, one of the first rules in business is if you're giving something to someone, they've got to pay you for it. And so that just started a whole ramshackle of things. But in sort of 2001, it was a bad time for subbies at that time. Like there were companies like, and I never did any work for these guys, but like Hartnett Construction and that sort of stuff were going under. Just big, like Scarborough went just the other day, and it's sort of big firms and all these subbies in the middle, because I've still got to go and pay my aluminium and the glass guys and that sort of stuff. And so it just started getting worse and worse, and this sort of people, failing, and then, cut a long story short, sort of you get to September the 14th, 2001, and sort of I was driving to the office that morning and about to sort of sign 2 bits of paper, which effectively puts in liquidation. And so I was, I just couldn't believe that it had got to that sort of stage. And it was amazing, because in those 4 years, like, it was 100-hour weeks. There was no, because I did nothing up here but work. It was
100-hour weeks. How does that?
Well, it's just like that sort of, you think of that focus of, so Monday through Friday, you got your team on the floors building your windows, dropping them off, your pricing. And the weekends, I'd go out to all the subdivisions and measure up all the houses that were already in, that other people had done for other builders, make up all the quotes, send it to those guys on Monday. So go, hey, look, understand you're already using Fisher windows, but if you ever wanted to come and see what I could do, this is what we'd do. This for that same house, this is the price we get. So it sort of snowballed, because I was pretty, I wouldn't say aggressive. I was very hungry.
But before it turned, when you're 21 or whatever you are, and you've got 50 people working for you, and you're landing these big contracts before you realising they're not going to pay you, did you feel like you were king of the world?
First year in Rotorua, God, I remember my first year set of accounts, the business made 120 grand profit, and I was taking a 40 grand salary, which sounds nothing these days. But in Rotorua in 1998, if you're making 160 grand a year, you're essentially Bill Gates. You were basically, you could do whatever you want. It was just like, going to Hamilton, you're just, buying drinks, and it was all just good times, That
was peak Hamilton too, by the way, late 90s, early 2000s. It was
actually really good. Just good. We were talking about it before we started talking, but you could walk home from the outback to whatever flat you're sort of staying in, and you weren't sort of afraid of getting jumped by sort of 2 cars with people coming out and start punching you. That sort of stuff. It was just good laughs, So that was so you sort of moved. I moved up. We're going to take it on, and the first sort of 6 to 12 months were great, and then it just started happening where one company went under, another company went under. Obviously, the .com sort of crisis was happening, and that was sort of flow-on effect to slowing down construction. And the same thing that's happened in the last 18 months up here, sort of big building firms going under and that sort of thing. And big learning experience in that was just, it doesn't matter how hard you work, is sometimes things just go. They're almost, I want to say out of your control, because I probably, some people listen to this go, oh, no, the bloody idiot, he did this and this and this and this. He's got his own selective memory. But, I just remember thinking, profit ain't profit until it's paid in your bank. So I was sort of sitting there going, we'll turn over $500,000 in a month of windows, margin off that. Now I can sort of tell you now, for a household of windows, it was 33% aluminium, 14% glass, 5% liners. It was, you could sort of name the prices of it. So I remember it like it was yesterday. But you just get to a stage and it's just like, whoa, this is not going to end, because you just can't keep moving the chessboard. It's like the chairs in the Titanic. So I end up, hitting the wall on that time.
So take us there now. 22, you're broke. Is it why not bar with Will?
Yeah, it was 23. And so I can remember hopping in the car, driving to the office, because I was living in the city, driving there. I remember signing the forms, going out, having to talk to the team. Couldn't finish what I was going to say because it was just impossibly hard. I was very lucky that I had mum and dad who just helped me through that. I was laughing with Dad the other day going, Dad, next year I'm the same age as you were when you were helping me design a house.
Wow.
He's like, we don't talk about this. We don't talk about that. And just lucky because, it's one of those things that sort of, I think is gutted as they were for it, just the fact that they just were there. I think that's just helping you through it and dealing with it all. I think Dad was incredibly disappointed and stuff, and just because no one wants to see that, and just all this hard work and that sort of stuff, and but just the sheer fact that they would actually be there and to help, I think it's helped you sort of get through. But on the days he did that,
those are big conversations for a 23-year-old to have with a group of staff.
Yeah, I remember just walking with Dad and down one of the streets, just being to the lawyers, and he was just a bit in front of me, and I was walking behind us. Because you just sort of know, you go, 5 days' time we're about to do this, and I just can't believe this is coming. Like, this is not how it's supposed to end. This is, so you talk about me raving goals every year, financial goals, doing this to sales, doing that, and here it was about to literally blow to pieces. And you knew it was coming, and you didn't know what to do. So that sort of happened. Funniest side story, a few years after that, I bought the building that went broken. I didn't own it for very long because I went to the auction, saw it. Dad actually texted me and said, "You seen your buildings for sale?" Which building? It's over the paper. I'll buy that. Wednesday, oh God, he's going to go and buy this building. And so won at auction, super emotional. When sort of once that happened, went out to view it after you bought it, and all I wanted to do was stand in the office where I'd sort of signed the forms. Said a few things to myself when I was signing those forms, and just it was the same office, same wall. I hadn't done anything to it. I just stood there, and I remember seeing where my desk was, where I was, and it was almost like you're looking back in a moment in time. And shit, I just remember thinking, better get out of there. But you just feel so sorry for that 23-year-old, because you just go, man, that poor little fucker's going through some shit. And so ended up selling that building about 2 months later, because it was, you've realised what a stupid thing to talk about rash decisions. Yeah. It's like, let's get out of that. It's pretty dumb. It's not going to make me feel any better.
But the significance of actually doing that, was that closure of a part of a chapter of your life?
I think the problem is I thought it would be, and you actually realise nothing's going to close that piece. What are you trying to do? It's a bit like me trying to go and buy an aluminium window joinery business now to go and sort of make it massive, and it's like, who gives a shit? Like, actually, I don't care. So that probably was what actually, so it was closure in a point of not what I thought would be closure, but actually it probably was closure. I was like, mate, this is a good part of your life. You learned a whole lot of shit. It was pretty tough. You made it through. You're now married. You've got 2 good kids. You've done all right in a few other businesses. You're not worried about paying for the grocery bill like you were, so just carry on, and that was actually probably closure in some weird way, yeah.
Well, when we're speaking about that time, it's emotional for you to take yourself back there. But in today's society, mental health, people are more open about it, and you can talk about these things. How did you deal with that? I'm imagining you were getting stuff from people you owed money to, and it was just a horrible.
You think when you sign the forms. I remember thinking, I've signed the forms. Phew, this is finished. Okay, it's cool. The liquidators take it over and do it. Probably now, lucky you didn't have social media back in those days. I had like just texts, you bastard, you freaking got your comeuppance, and just all sorts of shit, and just that was horrible. I mean, I think, to be honest, if there was social media back in those days, think of someone, a couple of years ago with old Jake Miller and that, that was intensely horrible. And knowing Jake, just when just the pile on, and I just remember just everywhere I walked, I was just everywhere trying to, I couldn't walk into a cafe or a restaurant without, fuck, is anyone here? Is anyone here? And I sit there. I wouldn't go to shopping malls because you'd be just canvassing. It's just exhausting. So you sort of had this weird thing that was going to just finish, and it just actually got a whole lot fucking worse, to be honest. I had to move back to Rotorua, because I couldn't afford the last week's rent on my rent, so I had to move back to Rotorua, moved in with mum and dad, and it was both really nice that we could do that, but I just wish I could have gone to Invercargill or something and just dug some holes on a farm or something just to get away, because everywhere you walk in Rotorua, everyone's sort of going, well, there's Shane. Shane like this. Shane was making, he's going good. Oh, well, old Shane is a bit of an idiot now, isn't he? So it's just you go from here and here. And I remember thinking about that explicitly on the day, going, I'm driving out there as Shane Bradley, employer of, I don't know, at that stage, it might have been 35 people after having to cut a few. Business, 23, everyone's thinking fucking amazing. And I'll be turning around and they'll be coming for you. And so, that was what it was. But I mean, that day, Will came up. We shot into the city. Had the pub was Why Not, was I think it's next door to where the Euro or whatever is. It's around that sort of area. It's Wharf, the Why Not bar. We had a beer in there, and I remember him just thinking, it was quite a silent sort of thing. It just, how did he get to here? I think as well. So so super tough time. Yeah, and there was 6 months where, so I was in Rotorua for a bit, just helping mum and dad out, doing stuff. And there was a couple of days I just said, I've got to get out of this fucking place. So I went and actually booked a ticket with some, what little money I could scrounge, one-way ticket to London. And I didn't know where I was going to go, but I just knew I had to get away because it was killing me. Yeah.
I'm going to bring you to London. I'm just going to insert what Will told me about that. And he said, I met him the day it was all finalised. We went to a bar called the Why Not Bar. He was open about how bad it was. But there was an overwhelming feeling that this couldn't be the end, not the end for you. I knew you were still going to be successful. I've always known he would achieve the things that he's gone on to, and he used it as fuel. So your next move was to go to London and get away. And the part, I've sort of heard you tell a little bit of the story, and the place I want to take you to is you buy a database off Yale.com for £300 and you end up making £1,400 in your first month. And in this interview, which was about 10 years ago, you say that was the best moment of your life.
Oh, mate, there's so long story short, got to London, thought I was going to go on a bike trip for 2 months, did 2 weeks of that and thought this sucks. I had one moment on that ride. I was doing that to almost like heal. I remember this one road which I actually want to go back to in Spain, south of Spain. It was a big long highway. And I was riding down there and it was just like hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't have a phone, didn't have anything. And I was like, fuck, no one knows me, who I am here. They can't contact me. They can't do anything. So I was like, cool. I enjoyed that for 2 days. And I was like, right, fuck, let's get back into it. Like instead of going, oh, let's enjoy it for another 6 months or something, like, right, let's get back into it. EasyJet, straight back to London, getting there. And then essentially sort of, I sold some double glazing windows for, because I could sell windows. So you commission based over there, you sort of buy some windows and sell them. So I did that, realized I was the Kiwi, selling. So I had quite a good sort of luck compared to the other sort of UK guys selling windows because I was, chain new windows and have a bit of a laugh with all the customers. Did that for 2 months. There's enough money to then buy a van, and I was going to do a business which is called One Services, and really One Services should have been entitled I'll do whatever the fuck you want services. You name it, I'll do it. And it was a Citroen Berlingo, filled it up with a big water tank in the back, and I would do car washing, carpet cleaning, you name it, I would do it. And I've done everything from unblock toilets that had 16 smelly Kiwi and Aussies in it. One of my specialties was re-siliconing all the bathrooms when they would leave and change, because obviously 16 people just simply don't wash themselves over there. So I did that. But yeah, at the start it was, you're just starting a business again. You have to register, all the domain names, and we did my own little website up there and that sort of stuff. And was going a bit shit, I would have to say. So the first 4 weeks was like, oh, this is not ideal. You're chewing through a little bit of money I had from the sort of first 2 months of selling windows. And I remember a day when I literally had a little computer, bought Yale.com, bought a database, made up with envelopes that night. I think it's about 465 of all the real estate agents within a sort of like about a 5K zone. Sent them out, waited. Awesome. There was one day and the phone started ringing. And I just went from there to there, like just within 2 days. I tell you, there's no, I remember just driving the van, get another phone call. Can you come and talk to us about this? I went and talked to Kinleyfolk and Hayward, Windmill Estates, all these sort of names I could sort of almost just name off the top of my head. And you're getting more jobs and you're doing that, and I was doing this, and then it's like, okay, I've got to hire a plumber to do this, and so I end up sort of getting up to about 8, 9. There'd be some Saffers, some Aussies and Kiwis, so electricians, plumbers, and that sort of stuff just on the books. And really the thing that I made easy for the estate agents was, you call me and whatever it is, I'll get it done quick, and it'll be super quick. And of course they were used to sort of over there, I wouldn't call at that stage tradie workmanship in early 2000s in London superb. Times weren't a matter, but so you just get good service, all that sort of typical stuff you go into any business with, good service, good price, be reasonable at everything, you get it done, you get more work. And that was awesome. So I love that. So that was super cool.
Who thinks to buy a database?
Yeah.
And was it in a book?
No, it was online. Weirdly, yeah. So online, bought it, paid the credit card, downloaded.
No, but I mean the idea to buy a database,
yeah, I suppose.
How does your mind think of that?
Well, it's survival, isn't it? You just got to do stuff, and you just got to. So the previous 3 weeks, what I'd done is done a letter pamphlet drop. I got no calls from that. That was a bad way of spending £1,000. And I was sitting there waiting. This I'd done, like, no, it might have been like 5,000 or whatever it might have been for these people dropping them off, and I've been dropping them off. Okay, cool. I'll make up my own cards to wash cars. So I made up 1,000 of those on my own printer, tore them off, put them under all the cars around.
Shit, it's a real hustler's mentality, eh?
You know how many cars I got off 2 days of dropping those things off to wash for £10? One.
Oh.
And I pulled up, and it was a Volvo V-Dub, and it was covered in that much bird shit. Like, it took me probably 2 hours to wash. And I was like, fuck, there has to be a better way than this, because this ain't going to work too well, you know? So
I love this shit, because we're going to talk about all the success you've had in business, but like, this is where it comes from,
totally,
right?
yeah,
It's like the hustler's mentality. How am I going to do it? I've got to solve a problem. Fuck, we'll do whatever it takes.
Yep, no, 100%. And it's, I actually, those times are quite simple. You know, it's almost like, you know, there's having not much is actually really simple, because you just have to you just got to do it. Like, you got no choice. And I was pretty proudful. I could never go and get a job, because I just didn't know how to go and get a job. You know, it was never get a job. It was like, no, I've got to start a business and I've got to make this business work. That was my job from there. So, but that was cool. So that ended up just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And sort of then I decided, well, actually, it's probably time to come home after 18 months. And a little bit of that was really missed mum and dad and family. I thought that was, you know, really want to do that. And probably a little part of it was I was doing well over there. Like, I came back with, you know, enough money to help me set up sort of the first stage of Finda, but it wasn't heaps by any stretch, but more than I went over there with. And a lot of it was really just, you know, you got all this shit from all these people over in NZ. I was doing all right. They didn't know I was doing all right. I still wanted to go back and do something to sort of give them the big bird and go, did this, and they couldn't see it. So there's a little bit of that. But the majority of it was, actually, you know what? You get one life, you get one mum and dad, you know, you get one, you know, a couple of sets of grandparents, and just there's all that sort of stuff. You just think, actually, I want to come back, you know, miss mates as well, because one like, you know, my sort of close mates were over there either. So yes, I wanted to come back and do that. So I got back in. When would that have been? Late 2003, early 2004, yeah, for that Christmas.
So this is interesting. The Finder story is, what I understand, 5 years, 2 years of hard slog, really interesting kind of like deal in the end in the last 18 months. But tell the story, the block of cheese.
Oh, mate, the hustle, because that was, you know, if I go back and so you come back and you're in, I just had a business. So I was up in Auckland, rented a house in Farnham Terrace, which is actually an office that I can look at. I can see this building. I tell people, I said, that's the building I set up Finder in. And so I was there, and I just had a spare bedroom, and I sat down and said, right, I've got to do a business. And my first one I was going to try and do was smoothies. So Innocent Smoothies was over in the UK, really nice vanilla bean. I was going to try and bring that back. That was pretty tough, couldn't get it to work. And then it was like, okay, back to the drawing board. And I was like, it's like the internet. Like, even my window business, just before we went bust, I'd got to the stage of having an online website to buy windows and doors on, which no one in 1999 or 2000 is buying aluminium windows and doors online. Yeah. But I just found that really interesting. So I looked around, I said, what do I use in London? You know, and everyone who's been to London will know about the Gumtree. And they go, well, everyone's used the bloody Gumtree. So I was like, well, actually, let's create New Zealand's version of the Gumtree. So when sort of started, and I was thinking, what of a name? And over there they had Fishful Property, which is based up in sort of probably the Midlands, I suppose. I was like, that's okay, cool. So then I just came in, no, Finder. That's the fucking name, called Finder. That's the way my brain works. Instead of registering just one domain name going, cool, I think I got to, it's about, I don't know, 50 domain names. Find a plumber, find a this, find a that. You name it, I was right. And it was like, right, cool, I've got to do a website now. So go and buy a book. So we literally bought Macromedia Dreamweaver for dummies, I think it was. Yeah. So we bought that, sat down. It was really hard. I realised I didn't have the mind for to be a developer. So I was like, okay, book's not going to work. I'd better do a course. So I went into a course for a week. Did that blew my mind. I didn't, you know, I wouldn't call myself, I've never been thick. I thought I would be quite smart, but that didn't work. I was too impatient to do that sort of stuff. And so I ended up getting a roving traveller who actually is still based in Rotorua, I think, a guy called Royston Bartholomew, who was a UK backpacker, and he ended up coding the first version of a website for me. And so it was great that he ended up settling in Rotorua, because I'll go back to Rotorua every week, stay with mum and dad, and we'd do 2 days of working on it, and I'd come back. And then we launched that. And it started out as property rentals and all that sort of stuff, you know, cars and that sort of thing. And that really went pretty crappy, because on the second week, she was live, I remember someone saying to me, is that like Trade Me? And I'm like, what the fuck's trade me?
What?
Oh, shit. So that was 2004 when it was, I think, when I first checked out Trade Mode, I had 100,000 listings. It was every 102,000, 104,000. Shit. So I ended up changing it into one part of the business was business directory. So about how, essentially an online version of Yellow Pages. And so I did that. Part of the reason of doing that, I knew I could sell to businesses. So then I set up a directory. You could have, Finda, whatever in Auckland. And I came up with $99 to do that. And I'd go around and I'd sell listings to the businesses basically. And so when people were searching on there for a cleaner in, Auckland Central, then, John Smith Cleaning would come up and be that. And I would sell like a gold listing, a silver listing, and a bronze listing, that sort of stuff. And that was God, that was hard yakka. That was the days of hop in the car and drive out to East Tamaki and just knock on doors. Hey, do you want to buy a listing? Da da da. And it's getting pretty bad when you've got a $99 listing of a check, because back in those it was all check, that you're going past the bank to get a same day clearance, which costs you $25 because you need the money to buy some dinner for that night. And being too proud to sort of, you never want to call up people and go, oh, hey, can I borrow $50 and that sort of stuff? And it was like, no, you got to make this happen. And about the same time, when we came back from London, it was actually came back with a different girl from our wife, and she didn't quite like the startup lifestyle of just work, and no money. So that sort of finished, and I sort of got to the stage where I genuinely thought I was going to go broke a second time. And I think that, I know, that's genuinely the hardest time of my entire life. There's a 2-month period there where, you talk about deep, dark times. I think they were I feel like I went as close as I could to the gates of hell, opened the door. People just open it, oh, fuck that. Feels like I opened it. Stood there, breathed it in, closed the door, and I was like, fuck, that sounds pretty bad, but did that sort of on regular occurrences and just had to sort of come up again with you can't buy a book to solve that. I'd like to, but you couldn't. It was just a case of just battling through, days where you're just in bed and you're going, okay, I've got to get out of bed. And I think for me, one of the big things I've always had is, so the strongest I ever was, so I went from this weekling of cycling to then just, gym bunny. The strongest ever was when I was going broke into design house, like I could lift the most. And it was a case of, for me, as long as you've got your fitness and your health from all the early days, that's good. And so I just started, you just focus on your health. No matter what, if the shittest day, I'd go for a run, whatever. And I remember just going through from, St. George Bay Road where the Paddington pub is and goodness gracious, the answer stuff. And it was just up the hill where I was living, and I'd go for a sort of run. And I remember running one particular time, and I was telling my wife about it the other day, and just, running under the Pano Overbridge and just going, you just got to keep going. You just keep going, just keep going, just keep going, keep going. And you sort of, one day in particular, a really bad day, it was just like everything was going shit, and literally nothing. You talk about the block of cheese and the loaf of bread that was the fridge, and it was like, fuck it, I'll do this for a week because I want to remember this moment in 20 years' time. And then when you was going for the run, I drive past it and ride past it, the same road, but past the Oahu Bay Marina, the OBC. I remember just thinking one day you'll have a wife, you have two, because at that stage you sort of, you've lost everything, and then your girlfriend's left you, and it's like, oh my God, this is fucking, everything's going to shit. And one day you'll have a wife, you'll have two kids, you'll have a boat there. One day you have a wife, you have two kids, you have a boat there. Just repeating that. And then, and the main thing there was just, was obviously the wife and the two kids. You just wanted to have that sort of, you just had to have something, like you've got to set a goal. I've been a massive goal setter, and it was just like, I've got to make a list, make a goals, and just get home, you write a list, and that's sort of what I started doing in those particular times. And you set goals of, right, today I'm going to sell one listing. I will not stop until I sell one listing. You sell a listing at 9 o'clock in the morning, fucking great, I'll sell two today. So you do two listings, and you just change it. And you just gradually just haul yourself through. Like,
was it that granular for you, day by day?
Mate, sometimes it was fucking minute by minute, to be honest, of just keeping going. Yes, it is. There's bad times, I think, some of those times. Yeah, really, really, really. Same thing. You just sort of think about it now, and I've often, because I sort of like being close to that area and in the bottom of Parnell there, because I think it's nice to not forget those times. Because if you do have a big win, or you do, I don't need to worry about paying the grocery bill now. I can swipe the card and not even look. It's this fucking definition of, I think, wealth when you can swipe your card. Because I've had those moments where you just have to sell your last push bike for something, or your last whatever, like, or your card doesn't work. I've had those times, and I'm really glad I had those times. Now I wasn't so glad then because they sucked. But yeah, really glad I had some of those times. So, but yeah, you got to break it down day by day by day is what I do. I had to do $4,000 in a month. $4,000 allowed me to pay for your hosting, for your this, for your that, for your this, and that leave me with $50 a day or whatever it might have been, just to sort of exist, I suppose.
And then, I mean, this is hard, but we get out of it, right? We do pull ourselves out slowly but surely, and we turn this into a win. Like, what sort of time period are we talking about here?
Well, it's funny actually. So I met Wind on 23rd September 2005. And,
Fuck, you've got a brilliant brain for dates, by the way, and names and places and moments.
I mean, interesting. And so that time there, I reckon if you go through my life of, like that, going down, and of course you got your family, you got your mates and stuff, but I think from that moment on, things started getting better. And I'm a big believer in, like, everyone needs like a unit, like we're all part of a puzzle, and I was missing a piece, and she was it. It was like, oh, fuck it. I remember when we left, we met at the mighty establishment called the Green Room, which is a bar next door to actually where the Why Not bar used to be. And we met there. Like all good relationships start at the pub after too many beers. And I remember just walking out and grabbed her hand, and we sort of were walking down Princess Wharf. I just felt like this is a change. This is going to be a change. And so we basically lived with each other 3 nights later. We moved in, and we've been together ever since.
Wow. Did you tell Will that first night that she was the one?
Yeah. Yeah, no, we called it next day and said, that's good. Found the wife. Perfect. Like, it was sort of amazing.
And I started working on 2 kids.
So I think it's like a piece of the puzzle when you start moving. And then, but the funny story is I was trying to then get an investment in, because when Trade Me sold, it was a bit before that, but ACP Media, which is the Auto Trader, and I'd contact them because I was out trying to, just
is that still around?
No, well, sort of. A little bit less, I think it is now, a little bit smaller, may have been. And yeah, there's a guy in there, and I kept trying to sort of do a deal with them. They were going to sort of come and they like the business and we'll do this, and you just fuck around for like months and months, as these people do. And it wasn't any fault of the guy I was dealing with, it was just the sort of the structure. But as you're doing, you're sort of taking your numbers in every month, and you're going, oh, look there, the sales like this still, and you don't want them to go like that, because then they go, fuck, we don't want to touch you. So I was sort of overspending in a bit of areas to keep the pressure going, because you spend a bit of money to get it you spend a bit of money on Google, and you want to get it up to here, and the next month you got to spend that plus the more, and then you, oh fuck. And it just got to the stage, we had 4 versions of the deal that went through, and this is over sort of late 2005, early 2006, and it got so desperate because I was basically 80 grand in the hole, and thinking, fuck, and now I'm going to go broke again. What are the chances? 2 businesses, 2 from 2. This is how it's going. So don't do very well at the cycling. Broke, and I'm feeling ambitious, and this is not working how it's supposed to work. And we got to the stage where I put a deal to them. I said, you take it, and you give me a salary for 2 years. That's all. You take it, and you take the debt with it, and I'll come and work for you. And I thought it was going to happen, and it'd be done. I remember I got a call as I was driving home, and Wend's parents had come around for the second time to sort of have dinner. I got this call from this guy. He goes, hey, Shane, bad news. I was like, fuck. Thanks, mate, thanks. Trying to be so polite. We walked upstairs, and then Wend's parents were there, and I remember just walking straight up to the bedroom, looked at the mirror in the bathroom and said, okay, I can't do this. Go back down, didn't even say hi. Got my keys, hopped in the car, and just drove down Great South Road, and actually ended up stopping outside the Yellow Pages building that was there down Ellerslie, which is actually quite funny because a few years later we ended up selling the business to Yellow Pages. And so I thought then, like I was classically, and I remember calling Will, he's going, mate, I'm going to go broke again. He's like, nah, this can't be true. And I'm like, I think it is. And then, but at the same time, I'd been going, I'm a big believer everything happens for a reason, and you just got to keep going. If you keep going, something will happen. And I remember it was literally 2 days later, I had been out seeing APN and a few other people in there, APN at the time, NZME now, and they just had another business, and they just hired a guy there called Warren Lee to head up APN Online. And he, literally, this email came through, and I could have just about kissed the computer, and it was just like, hey Shane, Warren Lee here for APN Online. I understand you had a chat with the guys at NetCheck. I think NetCheck Jobs was one of their job sites they had. Love to catch up. I'm in NZ next week. I was like, fuck, I'm catch up with this. I'm going to catch up with you. Don't you worry. I'm born for this shit. Yeah. And I remember going to meet him, and we got on like a genuine house on fire. And Wazza, as we called him, great bloke, and just such a awesome. I mean, he probably doesn't actually understand the impact it's had on my life. But long story short, from that, we came to the conclusion to do a deal pretty quickly. And they chucked in $1.5 million into the business. I still had half it, and they gave me the same salary.
In a short period of time, right?
Literally within 8 weeks, 9 weeks it would have been from that.
Wow.
So I went from being, oh my God, like I think this could potentially
How
be. How
close were you to closing the doors before that deal came to fruition?
Well, you sort of, so the other lucky thing they did back then is when I agreed the deal, I said, hey, look, I've got people who are banging down my door because I can't push them out any further. Can you loan the business? Can you do 100K while we do the agreement? And they did, which is amazing. It was actually quite handy that Trade Me sold about a month earlier, so they're very keen to get it done. And I sort of went, hey, look, I need to keep the hammer down on growth and that sort of stuff. So can you just loan the company $100,000 and then we'll do the rest of it when the deal gets done in 4 weeks? And they did, and that allowed me to pay everyone off to keep everyone, pay some the bills and that sort of stuff. And yeah, shit, that was I had a fucking good sleep.
So you've gone from basically having nothing in fear at closing to having $750K to your name.
Well, they put $1 million.
Better, right?
Yeah, they put $1.5 million into the business, so you don't get any of that out. So
right.
that's the thing. So it all goes capital in. But I got a salary, which I didn't have a salary. So I mean, that salary at that stage might as well have been about $5 billion a day because it just made such a difference. And but I remember the deal closing. And so the little office was in 493 Pownell Road, and I walked home because I lived at the bottom of Pownell Road, this little place, and I hopped onto bed. I woke up that was Friday. I think I got into bed, call it Friday 6:30, and I woke up on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah,
just fucking devastated.
Yeah.
So that was the first, like, oh God, I got to that one again. And then
but it got better, right?
Mate, honestly, since then, and that was cool. So you sort of hammered it, got on really well with Wazza. They had another business called AP Infomedia, which did Wise's maps. Remember the old maps books, and a company called the old red yellow pages, and sort of as they described. Like, hey mate, we've got this business here. It's not going too well for us. We quite like what you're doing. Do you want to have a crack? And so they said, cool. So I'd had all of that. So it was 130 people that we had to restructure. Hadn't made money in a number of years, that business. It was like one of these offshoots of a big corporation. And they sort of, back at that stage, I mean, you have no idea how big APN or NZME was. I mean, they were a $3.5 billion company. So this little business here. So had to go in there as a 27 or whatever it was. And that business, we got making money in 3 months. And they were like, well, this is pretty fucking good. You turn it from a $200,000 a month loss to a $17,000 profit in July. And so that was, so if you think about the deal timings, it was October, the deal closed, October 2005, 6 that would have been. And then we did July 2007, we got this business making profit, which there was that stage, there was sort of 70 staff, I suppose, of that. We were cranking. And then by the end of that year, they came to me, so 2 months after that, and they said, hey, look, we love what you've done with the place. Can we buy your share off you? I was like, okay, yeah, cool. You buy my share off me, that's great. And so we started that negotiation at the same time. Then Sam, our first daughter, was born, Samantha, and that was October 23rd. And then we were still negotiating, and they came to me and said, the first offer was like, oh, hey, Shane, look, here's what we want to offer you. And I was like, really? I've got about $40 in my bank account. This looks pretty good, but I should be more. Sort of got to keep a good game face. And as we argued, I don't think it should be not enough. It should be more. And I remember going home, and it would have been in November, and I was feeding Sam. I was Sambo, as I call her. And I was feeding her, and she just had this look in this eyes of, Dad, you're a fucking idiot. Just do the fucking deal, you dumb shit. And so it was like,
the eyes said that.
Good idea. Warren, mate, yep, good to go. And then we so we completed that deal on sort of December 22nd. That wasn't the end of it, because if you think about sort of funny times in my life, so we got the deal done. So 18 months I've gone from thinking I'm getting broke, a little bit of investment, got this other big business. Now they're giving me more money that I don't, I wasn't able to get a bank account after going broke. One of those sort of things when you sort of go broke, liquidation, banks do not like you. A lot of things don't like you. So by the time I could get a mortgage, I didn't need a mortgage, which is really funny. They wouldn't even give me a bank account. So, but anyway, that sort of came in. But the funny thing is, so that deal was due to get paid, and then it was Christmas time, and obviously we're living off, and we had less than $1,000 in the bank account. I think it was $800, it might have been. I remember those moments in time quite well. And we went to Eastridge, Coe, because we were living out at St Heliers at the time where we still live now. And I said to Wen, look, I'll look after Sam in the car. She's 3 months old. You go and just, I said, let's make this Christmas, buy everything, buy the fucking supermarket, we're going to do everything. Spend, of that $800, spend all that you can because the money's coming in 2 days' time. This is on a Saturday. And anyway, a Friday. And so it's coming on Monday. I'm sitting in there, phone goes. It's gut.
Oh, no.
Warren Lee, oh God. Hey, how's things? Yeah, cool. Mate, just had a chat with the guys. Are you okay if we pay it on January the 7th? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, man, cool. And just as I looked up, so I just put the phone down and looked rear vision mirror, and there's Wen pushing this trolley down with fucking everything. Comes in, I'm like, she's like, what's wrong? I said, how much you spend? She goes, like $680. I'm like, okay, we've got like $120 left for like the next 2 weeks. Yeah. And she's like, oh shit. And so I called up actually dear mate of mine who was renting an office off me in this little building. I said, mate, guy called Richie Poole, great bugger. And I said, mate, January's desk payment, am I able to get that off you like sort of in the next 2 days? Because we don't know. I told him the story. He goes, mate, happy as. So of course we paid us, I think it was $800 or whatever it was, $700. So we had money to get through to that point in time when the January the 6th came around. And of course you have this massive check goes in your bank account and you're sort of almost sorted. So you say, oh, sure, this is good. So they're probably the that's the early days of the stress, and that sort of thing of getting to that point. And you're like, phew, okay, that's good.
It's kind of crazy to think of where you are now to those moments of being in the day-to-day, week-to-week struggle and grind.
Yeah, it's just war. I call those times it's just war.
But they are huge foundation pieces for being thankful, I guess, for what you've got now, right?
Totally. No, mate. I love going through those times because it actually keeps you grounded. And I love living, where I go for runs is where I've been for runs when I've been literally with zero anything, and just when you can't go to the supermarket, when you cannot buy another item of clothes, and it's really good. I sort of wish, the hard part about a lot of this is that you sort of have kids and you sort of want them to have that same burning hunger is what I would have had, and they probably will never get that same, it's almost impossible for them to have the same level. I just don't think it will work, but it's crazy times, but it's good. It's always good to look back and reminisce.
This is the start of the Shane Bradley empire, and you've never done a podcast before, so I'm not really sure which part to hone in on, but you founded Sella in 2008,
yep,
and then sold it 4 years later to APM,
yep,
and that led you into GrabOne, and then there's other stuff we want to talk about.
GrabOne was done at the same time as Sella. So Sella we were doing, it was like a free version of it. It was actually an old part of Finda that we took off to when Finda sold, we needed something to do, so we did that. And then hired some really good people who were working with me on that. We were making good progress and being sort of New Zealand's free version of Trade Me, I suppose. And I kept seeing this sort of Group 1 business model overseas and going, Jesus, now we're just the first business that popped out of the GFC, like it was raising big cash. And literally Queen's birthday weekend, 2007, I woke up and it was literally 3 in the morning. I said, I've got to do this. I've just got to do this business. If I don't, so I literally went into the office that whole weekend, screenshot of the entire Group 1. The team walked in on Monday. I said, we're not doing Sella for the next 4 weeks. We're going to launch this business in 4 weeks. Yeah. And so we did that and we launched it in 4 weeks' time. And if I hadn't done that, I don't think many other stuff would have followed. So that was just chucking up literally probably 14 months worth of work and then just starting this brand new one.
Just that strength of conviction that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, gut feel. It was just like, I remember 3:01 a.m. in time, so I can just see it like it just...
Yeah, the slide came in.
Slide came
onto the projector.
And just going in and then, but I mean, hey, the team, why did that business work so well? I remember the first day we had that we started selling tickets, and it just went like for Volsh, $4 movie tickets. Just went.
Did you buy like 10,000?
10,000, yeah.
Them?
We did the first day. We put out to do a bit of a test to make sure it worked, and it got leaked. Someone on Facebook put it on a sort of so I looked.
I thought you looked at me like I did it. Yeah, someone on Facebook did it. I was like, it wasn't me, man.
But I remember it started going like this, and actually Mikey, who I think you might have spoken to, but and so Mikey was there, and I remember yelling out to him. I was going, well, "How's it going?" He goes, "Yeah, it's increasing." So we sold like 200. I was like, "Okay, and how many we sold now?" 400. I was like, "Where's he going?" And it just was like ramping up. I said, "We can't afford to buy more movie tickets." So when I got to 3,000, I said, "Just cut it. We've got to cut it." And then the next day, so I went down, bought some more movie tickets, and then got another. So we started with 10,000 that next day, and they, of course, went really, really quick. And the greatest thing was just printing out that first movie ticket on the first day, and I hopped it straight, and I bought it, hopped in my car from Parnell, drove to the events, the cinemas in the Olympic pools, ran up the stairs, movie, boom, and I just ran out. I said, "That worked?" Mate, yeah. I said, "Sweet as," and ran out. They would have thought I was just some nut job, but I just wanted to make sure the whole system worked. But that was probably, if you talk about other times in life, that day was amazing. Like just because I knew then we've got a big one. This will be big.
That's what I was going to ask. How did you know how big it was going to get?
I had a feeling. So I went home that night and I didn't really sleep that much because like this is right. We've got a plan. So go the next day, get around in the room together. There was 8 of us. I said we're going to launch 13 cities in 13 weeks, and we're going to have 40 people by Christmas. And that was, and we literally launched a new town because I said because what was happening around the world is every company was getting into this space. Like everyone was doing it. Every media company was doing it. And I said, if we get through to Christmas and no one else has launched of any significance, like the Treat Me was Trade Me's version, or TVNZ, I think had one, or the Aussie ones, or whatever else. I said, we'll win. If they beat us to there, I said, we will probably lose because we had to get big really quick because we were so small. So we just put the hammer down, and some fantastic people in there. People who are absolutely dear to my heart. And we just ran that business so fast. And then when we got to, it was March the following year, I think there was 20 launch in about 5 weeks, like 20 versions. There was Kudo, there was Spritz, there was, you name it, there was one out. But because we had the biggest database, we had locked in all the cool deals. So we made sure we had those. I said, we've got to lock in those. And the other thing I started with there is back in the other versions, we were having 50% commission. So you sell to a business and they take 50% of the commission off. That's shit. That's poor business ain't going to struggle. He's not going to survive in that. So we made it 20%. So I figured as being a business owner from previous times, that would actually sort of work. And so people would come to us because we would give them the most money and that sort of stuff and that sort of thing. We were the most professional out there and that sort of stuff. And so all those others just dropped away and we just kept growing. And so we went from 0 to 30 staff. First year's Christmas party was amazing. And then next year's Christmas party was huge. We had 100 and then we had 130. So it just went like, and it was turning over, basically it was a $100 million a year business when I exited it in 2 years and 11 months.
What did you sell it for?
The GrabOne. So we did it in partnership with APN in there, and so they bought it in stages as we went. So they first of all bought a first stage after 6 months, and then they bought the rest of it over the period of 2 years. So there's various numbers out there, but I try not to talk many numbers, but
okay.
It was a big number.
Good numbers.
It was a big number. Sorry.
By that stage, had the fear of going broke again, has that left you, or is that always a nagging thing that is...
Almost went broke after GrabOne.
Right.
Almost went broke doing GrabOne because I just betted so hard. Like a lot of people who have been in business and just given it a big one, you push it a bit. And so even GrabOne, 3 months into it, because we were growing so fast because we had no money, got to the stage I had one mortgage payment left. I was like, if this don't turn, and it just went, it's just went that next stage bigger. But shit. Now I would have had my life, near death. I mean, even doing so GrabOne went cool. That was great. Then sold that, walked out. Before I sold that business, I started 2 more. This is about start 1, sell it, do 2, sell 2, do 4. It's like this sort of just start pulling businesses out my bloody ass.
Is that a boardom thing? Do you need to you made mention
stupidity thing
right at the start about
I mean, even then, so the next business I went into was Pet.co, and that was simply because I bought a dog. That was Coops. And, this is when you talk about your mind, I'm literally, and we actually captured it in a moment in time. It's really cool. We took a photo, and as I turned to her, I said, can you get my laptop? Because I was going, I want to buy some stuff for Coops. got my laptop online. No website, Animates, no website, no website. Oh, so most normal, sane people go, I'll probably put the laptop down and I'll hop in the car and we'll drive to the pet shop and buy some stuff and come back. I'm thinking, people must be buying this stuff overseas. So you start looking around and you realise that there's a business model there, and so you start a business. And you do that. But even that one, you push it too hard, you buy too much stock. I mean, you sort of, anyone who's ever worked with me, when I can do a little pet business, and it's cool. You end up having 7,000 SKUs because people say, we have 500 SKUs. No, let's have everything. Let's have everything. I'll just get everything.
What's a SKU?
SKU is like an item, so that's one SKU. So 7,500 different items on your shelves is what it was. And so we did that, but of course you got to buy all the stock, you got to do all this. And so I remember having a chat, going to Mojo Coffee one time with it's actually Aaron and Mikey, and it was on a Friday afternoon. I sat down to coffee. Hey guys, I'm going home this weekend to just figure out if we've got to just turn this thing off or not. So this is just crazy. I can't afford these losses. It's just getting out of control. It's going to just wipe me out. And then we had good sales on Saturday. We had good sales on Sunday. Cool. Come back on Monday. Right, let's fucking gun it. And you just have enough to keep you going. I think it's just you have enough good moments in time where it just gives you that confidence to go, no, I'll keep going. We're not just the same as in your bike. You're touring to go bike race. You don't feel amazing from start to finish. You have moments in time where you go, I literally just am almost dead, but you keep going and you end up winning it. Okay, so I've lived by a few rules, and one of the ones I really live by, never forget, never forgive, and never give in. And so I think the never give in things come in a long time. You just can't. Like, you chop my head off. I'm pretty determined. I don't know if there's a big bomb that went off, I'd somehow, I reckon, find my way of getting out. I don't know. It's just you got that sort of inbuilt mentality.
Never forget, never forgive, never give in.
Yeah.
When I was talking with Seamus about you coming on, I was trying to sort of like explain all the businesses, and I was like, there's Kegstar, and there was Pet.co.nz and Right Wine and Neighbourly. He's like, fuck, did he do Neighbourly?
I was like,
too?
is that Neighbourly?
Yeah, dude, yep, Neighbourly, yep.
But I did want to get to sort of where you are now, and we mentioned it earlier, Coop. Yep. And I know that what you said at the start about this being a reflective part is his recent passing. Yep. And I was wondering if you can talk to us about that.
Yeah. I'll try and talk to you about it.
We do have tissues behind it.
Yeah. I bought some. So Coop's obviously always wanted it. We had a family dog growing up, Shellbell. She passed when I was 19, so from 5 to 19. So always, get another pet. And then I sort of wanted to get a pet when you had the right stage of life. So I wanted to sort of, wife and the kids, and then we'll go and get the pet. So we got Coop's, and he's such a, if I think about just the impact of the ideas, like he was, if I didn't have Coops, we wouldn't have started Pet. And if I didn't have Pet, we wouldn't have done PetDirect, and PetDirect's been the biggest one. And literally, if you think of, I'm a massive pet person anyway. I just love animals. I think they're the most incredible, caring things. And I just love looking after them. And I just think the world's a better place because of them. I think I'm a better human being with animals, and I think with Coops, I just sort of like probably a lot of people think with their own dog. I just lucked in, like sort of when we went to choose him. It wasn't me choosing him. I was sat down with his mum, and his dad came in. It was a big strapping 40 kg retriever, and Coops just came off his mum and came over. So it wasn't like sort of, he chose us, not the other way around. And then so having him and just and literally when we sold Pet, I talk about Sammy gave me the look of the eyes, and it's like Coops gave me the look of the eyes too. I sold that, and he's like, Jesus, Dad, that was our business, you bastard. You didn't talk to me. And so it was one day I was having a couple of beers. I was in a pool and we were having a swim, and I think over about 3 beers, something. And I said to Coops, should we do another pet business together, man? Because he used to talk to him like literally. And he's looking at me. I was like, we should do another pet business, eh? I was like, yeah, cool. Okay, we'll do the pet business. I'm just sort of making up his voice. Like, yeah, okay, let's do one. But let's call it after you, and we'll do Cooper's Pet Kitchen. That was the dog food. We're going to make our own dog food, and the dog food had turned into PetDirect, and that was December 2019. And of course, as you all know, started this little business in December 2019. Or started working on it. First order was March the 9th, 2020. And as we all know, a week later, there's lockdowns happening and that sort of stuff. And I said, oh God, we're going to die and we're going to go broke. It's sort of,
Did you really, was it that
Yeah, I'd been following. I'm a bit of a train spot of reading and things, and I get very worried about stuff which I shouldn't get worried about, but I seem to take it on. So I was following the COVID action from early January, I suppose, and just looking around and going, well, this could be bad, this could be real bad, and just following it and that sort of stuff. And then and then of course we started that business, and it just it took off. I mean, the sort of a couple of weeks into that, it was just like, oh my God, how do we handle this thing? It's supposed to be a small little business.
I think you say you were following things, but this is a good example of detail, of proactive. Like, you got 40,000 rat tests before the government, right? Because you were tracing this thing coming in, and you were acting, and you were seeing things.
Yep.
Like, that's not normal.
Yeah, no. I think as a I don't know, business, I'm always a natural pessimist. So I'm very optimistic, but I'm also got a lot of pessimism, and I always ask a lot of questions, and just I've got to find the data. So to me, when we followed all the stuff that happened in the world over the previous 3 years, we were ready for every time that Omicron hit or Delta hit, because I'd been planning for it for 3 months. Because it wasn't a case of, if that's going to get here, it was like, at some point it's going to get here. So I remember when the moment when we hit, got the Omicron one, no, Delta, was I was getting a coffee at Kawakawi and heard on the radio, and I called Aaron, who was out of the warehouse, and I said, right, we're on. He said, what do you mean? I said, they've just found it. We're going to be shut down and guaranteed in about 2 hours, so we're on. So kick all the gears into action. So we had everything ready for it, and we were just ready, And it's, so I say business is like war, and I think you've just got to be ready all the time. And because we're ready, mate, I tell you what, talk about making advantage of I hate to say making advantage, but we were ready for the uplift and everything that came through. We had all the stock in the place. We had everything going for it. And hence the reason in 4 years' time you build a business, got 100 people working for it and doing all that sort of thing, because you're just ready for it. And also had, a bit of money from previous ventures where you could actually go, we've got to move warehouse. And then the next thing hits, and it's like, we've got to move again. So tear up that one I've just moved to, we'll do another one over here. It's going to be bigger and better, but it's going to cost us more, but that's the right thing to do. And if we hadn't done that, we'd be probably not even half the size of what we are now, because we would have had to just limit growth. So
this thing is flying, right? 4 years, 54 million in revenue, I read.
Yep.
Are you thinking now, like, sell it?
Well, it was actually last year. Yep. And people will look at my history and go, oh shit, Vince Shannon's going to sell this thing.
Do you have people sniffing around your trail that have followed your progress, being like, sooner or later he's going to relinquish this?
People sort of go, oh God, you're going to sell this soon anyway. So I went away in July for our first ever family trip to Europe, which is awesome, and just had an amazing time. And I was sort of over there thinking, going, right, what do you do with this business? And it was like, well, I don't necessarily think I'm the best person. As you get older, you start. When you're young, you think you do everything. As you get older, you realise actually what you're shit at. So, okay, there's quite a few things I'm shit at. One of the ones, actually, I'm probably not the person to be the CEO of a business that gets to 100, 200, 300 people. I love causing chaos and causing all the ideas and that sort of thing. And so I came back and I talked to a guy, Dave Anderson, who's now the CEO. I said, mate, do you want to come in? He was actually helping for the last couple of years anyway and things, and it was a good time for him. And I said, part of this, we'll go and then get a sort of some investment in, because that will take the pressure off me having to do sort of everything, because it comes quite a big piece of your of your life. And so we've got a company called Pencaro PE, a private equity firm, and they've been fantastic. So you sort of set it up now like it's a big business that can become bigger, and you get all the foundations in place. Now we've hired it's got a executive team and all that sort of stuff, and all the fancy things you need to have when you're 5 people. When you're 5 people, you clean the toilets and taking the rubbish out and doing everything. Now you've got to take it a bit slower, and of course I struggle with slowness. I'm probably the world's most impatient person, but you just can't turn a business like that when it gets bigger and bigger. And I used to give all these big corporate shit about how slow they were. I can now see why they're so slow and things, but I'd never want to be sort of that slow with it as well. So yeah, so now the plan is just to keep growing it as big as we can, and just do good, all the basics in business, good customer service, treat your staff well, all that sort of thing. The thing will just grow.
Are you a walk the floor kind of a leader?
Yeah, no. I'd like to be. I guess hard as you get bigger, because you sort of I miss that. I miss the times everyone, and you can walk in and go, oh, let's do this today. Okay, 2 hours later it's out. I love that sort of stuff. So it gets harder, and I wouldn't say I don't enjoy it. It's just very different. So, we've got an office, we've got 2 warehouses. It's hard to get around every of those. You want to Christchurch, you don't get down to that every week as well. So, but yeah, I love the warehouse. I love walking out to the warehouse. You see all the stuff. I love the stuff, that's really cool. And dogs, just being in the dog industry, I think, or the pet industry, just really cool. It's a great industry to be in. And I'm involved in obviously lots of things. I think I was working out the other week, I think it's 35 businesses I've been involved in. Still involved in 20 odd, being an investor in things. Sold a bunch of them, that sort of stuff. So I just like being in various different things. But yeah, certainly this one has a dear place in my heart. But it was pretty sad when old Coopsy boy, left. But it's like, I think like a lot of those sort of things. And it's pets have a finite lifetime, and I think that then flows down into your own thoughts. And you go, oh, geez, we're not all here for 300 years, So yeah, so then he's sort of he's sort of moved on, which is bloody hard. As he's lost a pet, we'll never know, and we look at our business and go, we've got to, we actually do serve a greater good. I think, we're not just about selling pet food. There's actually something else we're doing. We're helping pet parents and their family members, and they are literally just like family. Absolutely, I consider Coop. He's just super close. He's as much part of our family as the kids are, and me and Wend, as well. So.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I know when I reached out over email, you sort of said, give me a month, because I think that it had just been fresh. Is it about?
So you emailed on Monday, and we were the next day it was all booked in. Lady came around home, and we just had our last weekend of last everything, that sort of stuff. So of course, we're going through photos on the TV and that sort of stuff, and having laughs and that sort of thing, and a few tears, and that week I've never cried as much. Because everything was the last, it's like the last walk on St. Helens Beach, or the last coffee at Coe, and it's like, oh God. And I would say I'm a fairly emotional fella at the best of times, mainly because I remember how bad things were, and I often think I'm actually quite lucky to be here, because there could have been times when I could have easily just gone, fuck this. I dare I say it, that sort of late 2004, early 2005 times were pretty shit, and so I always sort of reflect and go, man, so good, all these times are just so good, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, you do just reflect, I think, a bit more, and especially as you get a bit older and your kids, you're 16 and a half and 15-year-old, and you start thinking, oh my God, they got old too, they're going to be out. Another couple of years they'll be out, and they'll be we'll be empty nesters. When did this happen? I'll be 50. Oh my God, it just goes so fast.
What does your family think of like all of the business escapades? Are they across everything that you do?
Yeah, no, I try and with the kids, because that's what Mum and Dad did really good for me and my brother. We were part of every little small business we did. Every deal. We're always talking around the dinner table and that sort of stuff. And it was just a great. I used to help Mum and Dad with cash flows, because I could do it with the computer back in the early days of there wasn't Microsoft Excel and that sort of stuff. So you're doing that sort of thing. So yeah, try and do that. They think I'm a little bit nuts at times, because they sort of go, "What? That one? Have you done another one? Jeez." But it's easier as they get older, because they sort of they understand it a bit more, which is cool.
Oh, I'm going to bring Wendy in here, because I asked her about the family side, and everyone I spoke to said, as dedicated as you are to your business, you're equally dedicated to family. So she said, from the outside, people would say Shane's always working. I see it quite differently. He doesn't let a lot of people see stuff. They don't see all the giving he does, the softer side. When we first met, I knew how many hours you had to put into something to make it a success. I knew if we'd free his mind, let him go, we'd get time back on the other side. When he gets his work done, he'll be present, but if you try pull him away, he won't. Most of his businesses have had an online presence, so he's always connected. On family holidays when girls were young, Shane would be up early hours in the morning and just be working for 3 or 4 hours before we woke up. By doing that, it gets him in the right headspace. He burns the candle at both ends, completely dedicated to both family and business. Every time we have something big on the horizon, we talk about it as a family. It's a combined journey. He's really good at getting everyone on the same page. That's dad goals, man.
Yep. And mate, I think there's many ways you can work in life, and I was fairly ambitious when I was younger, but I never wanted to be one of those guys who looks back and goes, oh yeah, sort of woke up one day and my daughter was 18. I was like, I never wanted to be that. I didn't care how much money you could give. You'd be a billionaire, I don't give a shit. Because my theory is, so you work your ass off earlier on, and from then age 30 to 50 on, you ought to have kids. And for me, I think ultimately things are a choice, People can choose to work 100-hour weeks when you've got kids and not go to any of the things at school, not drop them off at school. I just think that's absolute failure. Why have kids? I want to spend as much time as possible with my time with that kids. That will cost me some money, but who gives a shit? Because ultimately, when you're 95 years old and you're sort of sitting there around and I want my kids to come up and go, Dad, you were there, you were there, you were there. Not, I mean, I know some guys, a couple of people in Aussie, man, they told me like it was almost like they're proud. Oh yeah, I put my kids to bed at Sunday night and I'll see them again on Friday night. Like, what the fuck? That's nothing to be proud of. I feel like punching in the face. Like, just have kids to have kids, and be there as well. And then when I'm 50, there'll be another chapter. And they'll be out doing other stuff and I can still go and do businesses, do deals, do whatever else. But you never get that time back. And, just even this morning, get up, my oldest has got a restricted driving practical very shortly. So we drove to school and stuff. And there's all these things you could easily not do, but it's a choice to do it. We could have easily moved offshore and made some more money. I could have done businesses which involved a whole lot of. I've generally kept them pretty close to New Zealand for that reason. I don't want to be one of these guys who travels 2 weeks out of a bloody month, comes back and then is on a plane again for 3 hours, over here and doing this, and you sort of FaceTiming your kids. I just think what a crock of shit and waste of time. It's just not me. The times you spend with your kids, you're never going to regret that when you're older. It's just the best, it's absolutely the best. And especially with your wife too, I think it's the same thing, people forget that they're married, and I think, as you get kids, it's hard enough. So you got to make sure you're there. I've often said to the kids, we have this thing at, home, and it's a bit harder now because they're bloody bit older, but it gets a bit disappointing when they're sort of like, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever's, movie night and pick off plate and then all the dogs would be here and one's on the couch and having, I'm having a couple of wines and we're having pick off plate dinner, watching a movie. And I always say to them when they start that, I said, when I'm 80, I'll remember these. Yeah. So no holiday, this is the time that we'll remember. And it's really cool because I think to have that and to actually follow through and have it, because I think it would have been very easy for me over many years to go, you know what, I want to chase a bit more. I know you can have more, but Christ, when you die and you can't take it with you. So, have as much fun as you can. And I don't think there's much more fun than having it with the kids. I don't do industry events. I very rarely do anything like that because I believe, I've had my work and you got your family, anything else starts encroaching on family. You can't do that.
Totally agree, man. Tell us about Wendy, because when you were first together, you had nothing. You both had nothing. And now
I had less than nothing.
You had less than nothing. You were on the bones. You had on the bones. Yep. And where you are now and all you've built together is just this incredible anchor who I imagine you couldn't have done it without, like you said, she was the missing part.
No, totally. Yeah, absolutely. And it's really, really hard for her because when I met her, she was, in great trial working, and then of course you have kids and it's like, well, I can't have a child, so that's what we're going to have to, you're going to have the children, that sort of stuff. And then it gets to a point, and I often say this to her and she just, I think it's really, really hard. And, I've been really cognizant now with 2 girls as too, because they're going to go through it too. There's a period of time where, babies want their mums. That's the only thing that works, and they give up. And I know Wendy's given up so much for me to do what I've wanted to do, and that was a conscious decision by, I know I'd like to say us, and it was probably more, hey look, well, I've got this thing here, I can sort of tend to start up businesses and do fairly well. I know you can go and get a good job, but actually this can probably make a very big difference in life. We didn't want to be, never wanted to have nannies, never wanted to do all that sort of stuff. So we want to be as normal a family unit as we can. So it sort of ends up doing that. Ultimately, I think she's given up more in the last 15, 16 years than what I have, totally. But you try and sort of help that out by not being the dude who's on, at the pub on Tuesday night and this on Wednesday night and off to bloody Aussie for 2 weeks or this or America for this. You try and make sure you're there at the same time as well. But I always say to her, we actually, I think it's in my wedding ring is team. We're the team and we're the unit. I couldn't have done, and I say as truthful as possible that from the 23rd of September, when we first met, things started going good. It felt like a turn. Like, oh shit, okay, we can do this. And I believe it. Actually, you get that. That's that it's that piece, and you go, oh, okay, this is actually move a whole lot better as well. So, but the sacrifice that any partner gives up, is just huge, I think, especially to go and do what you want to try and go and do.
And is the key to that good communication? What are the secrets to that super successful relationship?
Yeah, I mean, trust.
I'm making notes of all of these as you go along.
Trust. If people said to me, what's the quality most of mine in anyone, just loyalty. Like, loyalty is huge. So I think that loyaltiness, knowing that, I've got her back, she's got mine, I think that's actually really critical. And just comms, but I just think being there. I think if you're away for 2 weeks and it was Wen and the girls doing their stuff and she feel like she's a blimmin' just single parent doing all this sort of stuff, I think that would just add great. But if you're coming home, you're doing things and you make the time, you're making the effort, I think, as well. And there's a lot of people I know who have businesses and things, and they'll keep everything from either their wife or vice versa. Wen knows everything, like literally everything. I mean, she must be sick and tired. We go for a walk and talk. It's a board meeting, as I always call it, and we just talk about everything. It's what we do, and there's nothing that she wouldn't know that's going on. So I've just done this deal over here, and cool, it's unusual, cool. So she knows everything about it, and I think it's the only way to do it. It might be someone like, oh God, that's bloody boring as batshit, but she genuinely knows, and she genuinely makes me make better decisions because of that, because she's really smart herself as well. And I'm looking forward to actually, as the kids get older, it's like, hey, Wen, cool, let's start. What do you want to go and do now? Let's come do some things yourself too. So that's going to be really cool.
You know what's my sign of one of my favourite episodes is where, I don't know how long in, and a part which would be a headline of another one we haven't even spoken about yet. It's when you turned 40 and decided to take 2 years off and got onto the Ironman scene.
Oh, God, yeah. No, midlife crisis. So a lot of people buy sports cars. I thought I'd get fit. Well, that started because my brother was doing a half Ironman, and I was 39, and I've always been fitter than my brother, and he'll laugh when he hears that. But he was a skill sport, so I was the long distance sport. So, and he was doing it, so I'll go and do it too. So started that, and it was a good way to sort of get out of doing a few things. And you never stop working. Like, I can't just stop. Like my version of retirement is probably someone's version of full time work. Yeah. And so I just wanted to get fit, and you sort of, because I was quite fit when I was early on, and then of course you go through these sort of horrible phases of just gaining massive weight because you're not looking after yourself, and then you sort of think you're fit but you're not. So I did this half Ironman in Taupo and turned up, and Tone ended up pulling out of it, big softy, and I got down there and thought, I'm going to smash this shit out, because I was a cyclist 20 years ago.
Yeah, I got this.
I'm mean. Did the swim, had a panic attack, thought I was going to drown, get to the end of that, fuel on the bike, bike's my happy place, I'm back at the office, smoke it on the bike, the first out to Reparo. Turn around, oh God, I'm going to have a hunger bonk here. This is this killer guy just obviously didn't have the fitness. Get onto the run, and just that was just like, head down. And even my brother says to go, because he was riding, was watching me. He goes, I just do not know how you didn't stop, because I was just like cross the finish line. I'd never stop. I mean, I'd have to break a leg to stop.
Never give in.
No, and got to the end of that, crossed the finish line, and I was just I was so pissed off. I was ashamed. I was everything, and I said, "Fuck it." And I sat down. I had a towel over my head, and the girls were there, and just having a sort of, "Oh, Dad, you did well." And I was like, "Fuck, that's not well." I just felt ashamed, and so I'll come back next year and I'll win this fucking race. And so that starts the plan, and that was good because I actually wanted that sort of year or sort of so to do that. And I found the coach who coached the guy, Braden Curry, who won that sort of version. He was a pro. So I was like, that's the coach. It's a guy called Bev McKinnon, who's a brilliant sort of fella, and still chat to him all the time. And I saw what Braden's bike he was doing. So I went to Mountain Cycles and bought the bike. And I was like, cool. And right now I start. And so I ended up overtraining actually for that next year's event. I sort of had to bloody blew myself out. And then I went back there eventually, and I won that particular race in my age group. So I was pretty happy with that, and did a few other bits and pieces with it too, and really had good times. I mean, it was just good, and it's just good. It's a good way to getting fit. And I mean, since then, I always pride myself. If someone said, "Hey, do you need to swim to Rangitoto and run up it and swim back?" I could do that this afternoon. Like, I just wanted to be nice and fit. And so that was good, and it was a great sport, and it sort of suited my mentality too. But it's bloody hard, the amount of hours you got to put into it. And the problem if you're someone like again, me, it's like either going to do it properly or not at all.
Yeah.
So I sort of finished my Ironman experiment in October last year. Said that's enough. It was getting too all-encompassing, and it's just hard to fit around more work, and kids are right into sport and that sort of stuff as well. So I thought, okay, I can't carry on with this dream.
It's a great chapter. We're getting to the home straight, but there's a really cool story, I think, about being in Queenstown recently and seeing your old bike, in a shop.
Yeah, actually, yeah. That was so in 2004, in the darkest times. So I had this bike which I had made by a guy called Graham Pearson in Rotorua for the Junior Worlds, and had been rushed up to Auckland, and then I ended up snapping it and had to rush it anyway. I took this bike. It was this crazy frame, like Graham Pearson used to make the Olympic bikes for the Olympic, sort of like this, like a wing. And anyway, as I'm needing money, as I'm getting down to not having much, I end up selling bits and pieces. And the last thing that I didn't want to sell was his bike.
You referenced that earlier in the episode. I heard you make mention, and then you got to sell your bike, and you kind of quickly brushed over it.
Yeah, no, I know. And but when you've got $80 in your bank account, no food, and you're sitting there and you got this bike, and you go, oh, fuck it, I have to sell it. I don't have to sell the Venom. Venom's what it's called. And so put on Trade Me. I remember dropping off to the guy. He gave me cash. I said, you got to pay cash. Called into the supermarket at the bottom of Key Street, wherever it was. And sort of was just pretty devastated, to be honest, of selling that, because that was like my one piece of cycling from when I was doing it. And anyway, so as you get on, I had the money, so I bought some food. The fridge was filled up, and that was quite cool, but I was still pretty pissed off with it. So it was 2004. And then I was almost like, what else can go wrong at that point in time? And then I tried to find the bike over the last probably from about 2011, 2012, seriously, when I started having a bit of money from other things, like, I want to find this bike, I'm going to buy it back. It must be around somewhere. You never know, these random things happen. I had a feeling it was never, you just never got a feeling about something. And so I tried to find it, thought I found it once, but it wasn't, because I could tell which one was mine, because where it snapped had to be repaired, it had a lump on the carbon fibre. So there's no point buying someone else's bike and pretending it's mine. I've got to buy my bike. And so we're down at Queenstown doing the Route Burn track in January. And we'd done this, I booked this trip a year ago. So, get an investor in, and PetDirect was even on the radar then. But anyway, the way it worked out was the deal was closing, and I was getting paid on the Friday of January the 19th, I think it was. Anyway, so we're I'm sitting at sort of place next door to where we were staying, having a beer. And it's always good, just refreshing the app. Oh, I'm glad I did that deal. That's freaking awesome. Why do you even think about how stupid it was not to do it? And so that was cool. And then me and the girls were going to ride to Arrowtown the next day. And so I went and rented some bikes, and thought, okay, and we've rented bikes in there four times before. Never been to this place to rent a bike. So I've rented it from a couple other places. Anyway, rented this bike, walked in Saturday morning to get the bikes, and I'm sort of there, and there's a couple of bikes hanging on the wall. I was like, that's pretty cool. These are all sort of bikes of my era, because back in the 90s, we'd do all this crazy shit, like big back wheel, small front wheel, crazy aero bars, and that sort of thing. And anyway, I paid the money, turned around, and literally, like, that was the door. I looked up, and my bike was hanging from the ceiling. I was like, and all I said was, that's my fucking bike. And people were like, what? And it turned out that the lady who was in it was her dad who owned the shop. It was his brother who was a collector of bikes. Yeah. And so I sort of went, oh, can you ask? Can you get it down? And they wouldn't take it down. Anyway, so we went away to have lunch, come back, and I dropped the bikes off and said, hey, can I talk? And I think by that stage they'd gone, this guy's slightly crazy. Let's just tell her. So she wasn't there. So another guy was, hey, look, we talked to the guy. He doesn't really he wants us to collect his bikes and that sort of stuff. And I sort of, okay, cool. Pretty dejected, sort of thought, oh, God, maybe I was a bit too hot and heavy and wanting the bike ripped down. And I still wasn't totally sure if it was mine. I could tell, but obviously I needed to see it close up. And so anyway, the next morning, I just got up really early, as I do anyway, and just wrote an email to them, and it was about sort of yay long, and said, look, can you just pass this on to the guy so at least he knows the history about the bike, why I sold it, and why I'd love to buy it back. And if he did want to sell it, I'm happy to give him this much for it. And so anyway,
that amount was $1 million.
Yeah, probably wouldn't say that much. Yeah, but he could have said probably most amounts, and I would have just about said yes. And anyway, so sent that, didn't expect anything of it. And then 4 hours later, we'd just got back into phone reception. I got this email that said, and all I remember reading was the sort of preview, and it said, hey Shane, had a chat and to the now ex-owner of the Venom. And look, so I ran in there, she had already pulled it down. I saw it, and then Wen's got the video of me sort of checking it's mine, and I sort of, I mean, if you, that was an emotional time when you get that, because it's this asset of, for me, it was a link back to the real dark days, and to then probably the, I don't know, well, it's not, I wouldn't say the happiest, but it was certainly the most content I've been probably ever in my life. On that day, having a beer, you're just going, phew, this is awesome. And then for that to happen, and for me to bring it back home, which is now getting fully restored, we've managed to find the same aero bars that I used to have, the same disc wheel, and a guy up in North Shore is actually doing it all for me. And I think that link, I say shit happens for a reason, and I'm a big believer in that. If you just, whether or not it's karma, if you keep doing good stuff, things will eventually turn for you. And to me, that was just this whole full circle of, I've got my bike back. I've got my bike. So that was, that was really cool, actually. So I think, as you get on in life and you I don't know, make a few bucks and you buy a few dumb things, bought a bunch of stuff, but there's not a single material thing that's more important to me than that push bike.
That's such a cool story. Last one from me is what the future looks like. How you think about what's coming up, next chapter. How many years do you keep doing this for? What do you think?
Well, I think you do things for as long as you enjoy it. So I don't think of I don't work as well. I live. So you had to go through some periods where you had to work, but now like I said earlier, I get up at 5 and I go to bed at 9, and in between then I do stuff. I think I would like to, when the girls are finished and they're living their own life and probably don't want Dad, turning up when they're 21 somewhere, they're probably saying, hey, Dad, it's all cool. We'll come see you. So, and me and Wendy talking about this a bit, it's like, so when I'm sort of probably 50, which is 3 years' time, what's next? I'll still do business. I think I've got a couple of big ones left in me. I'd like to do a couple of ones which are, I don't know, more health related. I love, talk about, ice baths, the saunas, all the PetDirect, all that sort of stuff. I love that. I think that's an area which I think we need as a society, that sort of stuff. But doing, I think something like that would be really cool. I'd like to go travelling. I've never had an OE. Never been. I was always working so hard. So I've sort of tried to say to people, look, I'm probably a 60-year-old actually, because if you think most people get into business when they're like 30 after having and they have 30 years of business. I've been in business since 19. I've had, by the time I'm 50, you sort of go, I'm sort of feeling like I'm a bit older. So doing some travel and that, but I think that will be related to me and Wen doing some business stuff together, and that might be, I don't know, going over to check out something in, south of France. That'd be amazing. Find a business over there to go and look at. That'd be cool. Or just something somewhere. So I absolutely. So I don't think it's. I'll never retire. I don't think retirement is. What is retirement? It's doing what you enjoy. Well, if you do what you enjoy, and and retirement, again, when you're doing what I find now is I can do my best work when I'm going for a run. I can do my best work sitting at a cafe, having a lunch and just get an idea on something. I can, So to me, it's not like I have to be somewhere doing that, and that's why I feel so. I never use the word lucky. I don't like the word lucky because it implies you've got given something, but certainly privileged to have earned this position that you just actually like. I love getting up in the morning, and it's actually exciting, and there's lots of cool shit you can do. Giving, I think that's cool. I've started to do a bit more of that, and I enjoy that sort of thing. I think there's no better money that you spend when it's actually going to a good home. I think that's really cool. Whether or not that's helping out some athletes who can't quite afford to do something, or whatever it might be. So I like to do more of that. But also, hey, if the kids end up in Sydney and London, I'll probably spend a bit of time between Sydney and London. I'm certainly not going to be, we'll see you twice a year or 3 times a year. That's just not the way that, that's not the way that our family unit would work anyway, I think, as well. So, yeah. So lots of good stuff to come. Not even halfway yet.
I'm fascinated by that notion of converting an idea into a business. I know there's no blueprint to do it, just wondering, and I know I asked it at the start, but like once you get an idea in your head, is it just locked in there until you've scratched that itch? Everything about that idea you've kind of investigated?
Yeah, and I think so quick to try something. I mentioned before, like fail fast, fail cheap. So just try something and start it. I think too many people have an idea, and everyone's got an idea. have you done anything about the idea? Oh, I don't know. I've got to think about this and this, or I've got to do user testing, or I've got to go and interview. Just start it. Like, Christ, by the time you've done that, the opportunity might have gone. Like, if I'd thought too hard about doing GrabOne, we wouldn't have done it. And someone else would have done it. I'm sitting there going, oh, I had that idea. And then I'm the idiot who's had the idea, who's telling everyone, oh, I had that idea 6 months ago. So, well, wouldn't you freaking do something about it? So I think a lot of the stuff has just got to start, and you'll figure it out on the way, because that's the great thing about business, I mean, you guys are kicking this off, you're 3 months into it yourself, and tell you what, it will be very different than when the first day you started. You're probably sitting there going, oh, I've got this, and I've got this, and got that. And I think, too, the longer you've been in business and just starting, opportunities just arise out of places as well. And so, but it's hard to put that down. Here's my plan to do a business and go, well, I'm going to go and do that, because and tomorrow it's in the bin. Probably this afternoon's in the bin, Lisa Carrington has that fantastic quote, which is, well, first you got to write the plan, then you got to make the plan. And I think that's the plan. Do business that does X. Okay, cool. Now I'll go and make the plan. And I prefer to probably make the plan on the fly. Great for an early stage of a business, probably less good as you get a bigger business. It doesn't really work because everyone needs to sort of have a rough idea of which direction you go. So if I talk about sort of ones where I fail fast, it's where I've suddenly gone, I want to go and do this deal versus, or it was this business versus I want to invest in that thing, which is two distinct things. So I've got sort of what I found, and then you got what you invest. And I sort of enjoy these things, and I do more of this stuff. And as you get more capital, money behind you, you can do more of these, because you can actually do it with someone. You can go, I've got this idea, I want to go and hire that person to do this idea with me, versus I've got to find an idea and end up putting some money into that one for 2% of it. So I'd actually rather do this. I'm a bit of a control freak too, so doing that means it's a bit easier to, control the direction of it as well.
I feel like we could talk to you all day. I'm going to end with a couple of more voices here. These are two people that have worked with you for a very long time, Damask and Aaron. So Damask says he puts his confidence in people and encourages people to make mistakes and fail fast. It's why so many of his businesses have such high growth rates. He's so respected by those he works with. They're aware of his success in previous business. People want to come and work for him. They want to get on that journey with him. And Aaron says he's just super disciplined and incredibly hard worker. No one I've met who deserves his success more based on how he looked after people on the way through. And that's come through too. The way you look after people, the connections and relationships you've maintained, the way that everyone has spoken of you so highly. It's been one of my favorite episodes. I've learned so much. It's been so cool. You should do more podcasts, because this is really, really good. I just wanted to thank you for coming and sharing so much of yourself with us.
No, thank you guys. It's been, I can never say the word properly, was it cathartic or something? Just talking about some of this sort of stuff, I think. And it's super cool to hear, like when you hear that sort of thing from, Damask has been with me now since 2005 or 6. I mean, it's a long time. Aaron, we did 3 businesses together as well. And I think the key in there is to always look after your people. I think, like I say, loyalty for me is beyond number one. It's just that. So, and it's not just expecting people to be loyal to you. You've got to be loyal to them. And that's the whole, I'll scratch your back and you scratch mine, let's do well together as well. And they just, again, they're super awesome people. It's like with those two, I've employed so many people in my time, and you have a list of probably, 10, 12 people, whatever, that you sort of, I will be talking to when I'm 85 and checking out for and making sure they're doing all right and that sort of thing. And they're certainly up there. And I think that's really cool. I think it's because, business isn't all about just making money. It's making sure you got some, and I think, again, just sharing it around and looking after people. And it's just really cool to see. So, and both those two, amazing to see where they've, like all of us, where we've gone to and got to.
I just found the whole thing so inspirational. So
thank you.
Shay.
Awesome.
Yeah, we roll some of these out under that low-key legend umbrella or moniker that we've given it. And definitely, like, hearing the challenges, hearing the failures, hearing the successes, but this, like, the tone was set, I think, with Will's words and the strength of friendship and your value on people. And like hearing you speak with such conviction about the importance of family and the importance of being there for family really, really, really spoke to me. But also I really respect that privacy element of it. I had no idea who you were or what you'd done before dipping into researching this episode. And I think there's a real admirable quality in being kind of private about your achievements, which are very, very vast.
Thank you. Very much the Kiwi way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Humbled us.
Humble champion.
Nah, thanks guys. And obviously wish you guys all the best too in your juniors, business owners.
Let's stay in touch.
We'll
Cheers,
do.
Shane.
Cool. No, cheers, fellas.